Welcome to Fiction Audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, like and subscribing would be greatly appreciated. If you have any recommendations for novels, comment below.
Please join my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/fictionaudiobook.
Chapter 535, Chapter 474.2, Tide of the Times. A strange mist died with darkness spread out, stretching the sense of time infinitely. The scene, like stars, flickered faintly through the black fog, mixed with whispering murmurs, sometimes illusory, sometimes wild, sometimes restless. Scattered thoughts continuously split and gathered, sinking deeper and deeper. Finally, the gathered consciousness formed into several figures standing on a desolate ice field. In the distance, magnificent mountains cut across the world like beastly jagged fangs. The sky was divided in two by a river of stars cutting through the horizon, its rolling currents flowing into a temple atop the highest peak. This place is. Orochimaru, now fully awake, looked around the unfamiliar environment, suddenly feeling a strange sense of familiarity. This is not a dream. But it feels like one. Uchiha Makoto looked up at the Milky Way in the sky and murmured, "Is this the spirit world? No, it should be the realm of the mind." Then, a third figure appeared, Itachi Tsukumo, with an expressionless face, but a hint of shock showed in his eyes. Otsutsuki Hagoromo spoke in a hoarse, aged voice, quickly drawing everyone's attention. "If I'm not mistaken, the flow of time here and the basic makeup are different from the real world. But it's not just a simple dream. This should be an independently created world." At that moment, the last to appear, Konan, seemed to have known something all along. She looked at the surprised crowd calmly and said, "Follow me." Could it be? Orochimaru's pupils flickered, as if he guessed something but couldn't be sure. Wait, shouldn't there be one more person? Itachi Tsukumo frowned slightly and said, "Inoki isn't here." Konan stopped walking but didn't turn around. She said calmly, "There's no need to wait for him." No need to wait. What did that mean? As soon as she said this, a storm of speculation stirred inside everyone's hearts. They all started to guess wildly. But before anything was confirmed, no one dared to be sure if it was as they imagined. Led by Konan, they soon arrived beneath the pitch-black mountain range. Luckily, all of them were shinobi, using chakra to cling to the jagged, sawtooth-like cliffs. Before long, they reached the mountain's peak. Before them stood the magnificent corpse cathedral. Could it really be? Though they had already guessed something vaguely before. But only when they saw the grand corpse cathedral with their own eyes did they finally confirm their suspicions. "Lord has been waiting for us for a long time." After a brief silence, Konan was the first to step inside the cathedral. "Let's not keep Lord waiting too long." As expected. Their guess was right. No wonder Konan suddenly gathered everyone and rekindled that old bronze lamp again. Yes, besides that great lord, who else could be worthy of them using that bronze lamp once more? After sleeping for over 10 years, has he finally awakened? The rest of the group restrained their excitement as they followed inside the corpse cathedral. Inside the massive cathedral, the pillars and arches were made of different creatures' bones, holding up the ceiling. Countless empty eye sockets of white skulls stared blankly down at the hall below. Underneath the towering white bone cross hundreds of meters tall, a majestic figure seemed formed from thousands of merged bodies, bathed in pale golden light, sitting prominently on a huge bronze throne. In front of that bronze throne was a long bronze table with many chairs on both sides. What shocked Orochimaru and the others was that besides Lord Adam in the main seat, two additional figures now occupied chairs at the table. Were they new members? Konan was already seated, and Lord Adam lightly tapped the table with his index finger and said calmly, "Please, everyone, take your seats." "Yes, Lord Adam." Orochimaru, Tsukumo Hatake, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and Uchiha Makoto all took their seats. That familiar feeling returned once again. But Orochimaru frowned slightly, quietly studying the two new members, observing their spiritual presence. One person's aura was deep black and profound, containing a power distinct from beyonder potions, yet it gave him a familiar feeling, as if he had seen it somewhere before. The other was more steady and calm, showing almost no distinct traits, except an impression that they were older in age. "I'm glad, after awakening, to see all of you again." Adam's eyes scanned the people seated on both sides. He nodded with apparent satisfaction. "In such darkness, you have all persisted until now. Your performance makes me very pleased. No, it is Lord Adam who granted us strength. To hold on for that reason is nothing." Orochimaru composed himself and slowly spoke, "Rather, it should be said that we have disappointed you. Since Lord Adam fell into slumber, the Twilight Hermits have weakened to this day. We bear an unshirkable responsibility. Please forgive us, Lord Adam." Uchiha Makoto and Hatake Tsukumo glanced at him, their mouths twitching slightly. "If anyone should say it, it's you." That obvious flattery. Heh. Suddenly, someone opposite laughed aloud. Indeed, for useless people like you, if it weren't for Lord Adam's magnanimity, you would have been discarded long ago. As an original member being mocked, his expression clearly soured. But out of respect for Adam, he dared not retort. Besides, it was somewhat true, so he could only swallow his anger forcibly. All right, no need to argue. Adam tapped his index finger on the table to calm the discussion. His voice was calm. Let me introduce these two. They are Nidhogg and Izanami. Orochimaru seemed completely indifferent. Despite being mocked earlier, he still smiled. Welcome to the Twilight Hermits, both of you. Konan, Mikoto, and Tsukumo showed little reaction, only nodding slightly. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's gaze lingered faintly on Nidhogg. From him, Hagoromo sensed an unprecedented pressure. Nidhogg is not simple at all. This gathering has two matters to discuss. After briefly introducing everyone, Adam spoke again, slowly. The first matter, the tide of the era is about to arrive. I hope you all prepare well. The tide of the times. Orochimaru's eyes brightened as he quickly recalled the original meaning that Adam mentioned about the Twilight Hermit's plan. That was to awaken the first creator, who had fallen into death within the proper flow of the times. And now, they were getting closer and closer to this goal. Lord Adam, is there anything we can help with? Orochimaru asked, his tone carrying a hint of excitement. No need to do anything. We are all part of the tide of the times. Adam's voice was calm and indifferent as his gaze fell on everyone present. Next is the second matter. I hope you all can advance quickly to face the crisis that is coming. Chapter 536, Chapter 475.1, Strengthening Aurora Order. The Twilight Hermit Order was handed over to Adam for management, while Uchiha Sogetsu became a hands-off leader. He directly hid himself in the sea of collective subconscious, alone on an island deep within the endless depths of the mind. In fact, as early as Sequence 2, the discerner could physically enter the sea of collective subconscious and live there permanently, but he was just too lazy to do so. Uchiha Sogetsu conjured a branch and gently drew several lines on the soil of the mental island. Now, it's time to organize the situation to prepare for future rituals. The branch traced a simple chessboard pattern, and he took the white pieces, representing the Twilight Hermit Order. When this organization was first created, its main role was to follow the trend of the times and save the original creator. Its members included Orochimaru, Konan, Tsukumo Hatake, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and Uchiha Mikoto. All of them had strength capped at Sequence 5, so advancement shouldn't be difficult. Soon, they would leap to become the strongest organization. As for Inoki, he was just an insignificant player. Uchiha Sogetsu did not care about the others' betrayal. With his current power, betrayal or loyalty no longer mattered. As long as he wished, whether betrayer, loyalist, or even insignificant beings, all could become his strength and carry out his plans according to his will. Next is the Aurora Order. He placed a black piece while frowning slightly. Still too slow. I need to think of a way to strengthen it a little. The meaning of the Aurora Order's existence was twofold. First, to cultivate the foundation for the Hangman pathway. Second, to put some pressure on the Twilight Hermit Order in the ninja world. But with Mr. A abandoned, the Aurora Order obviously couldn't put any more pressure on the Twilight Hermit Order. It was even possible that the entire Twilight Hermit Order would soon ascend, wiping out the Aurora Order in one stroke. This undoubtedly went against his original intention. A slight headache, Uchiha Sogetsu pondered for a moment as branches scraped against the ground. Sasuke, how is Uchiha Itachi's situation? His call could instantly connect to anyone through the subconscious sea. He is preparing for the advancement ritual and will soon advance to Sequence 4, the Black Knight, Sasuke replied. Too slow. Can it be faster? Uchiha Sogetsu was clearly unsatisfied with the pace, frowning slightly. No, it can't be rushed. Sasuke decisively refused. There are very few suited for the Hangman pathway. Uchiha Itachi is the only one born with that beyonder characteristics. We can't waste him. His meaning was simple, unless another person naturally possessing this beyonder characteristic like Uchiha Itachi was found, it was better to be patient. That's true. Uchiha Sogetsu was speechless. People like Uchiha Itachi, who were born with a very high affinity to the true creator from the womb, possessing innate beyonder characteristics, were extremely rare. However, recently, someone was discovered. Sasuke suddenly said, Haiden, who has immortality, has successfully ascended to Sequence 8. Haiden. Uchiha Sogetsu was slightly surprised, not expecting this guy to appear again. He thought that after eradicating the Jashin cult, there would be no more Haidens. But this guy still showed up. Sometimes, one had to admit that the inertia of the plot was truly immense. Let's leave it like this for now. Uchiha Sogetsu sighed. But the power of the Aurora Order must be increased somehow. Only then can we push the plot forward. I do have a method, but I don't know if you'll agree to it. Sasuru's calm voice carried a hint of coldness. Uchiha Sogetsu raised his brow slightly. 100,000 white Zetsu. Sasuru spoke coldly, as long as the quantity is enough, quality won't matter, right? I see. Uchiha Sogetsu immediately understood the method Sasuru had in mind. Although high-level Beyonders are fixed in number, even if the total remains unchanged, the number of low-level Beyonders can grow extremely large if left unchecked. Currently, the only high-level Beyonder on the Hangman pathway is Uchiha Itachi, so theoretically, accommodating 100,000 white Zetsu at the low level is entirely feasible. Just like raising poisonous insects. Sasuru said lightly, there will always be individuals who break their limits, won't there? Let's do it your way. Uchiha Sogetsu nodded slightly, agreeing to Sasuru's plan. Indeed, at present, this was the only balanced approach, to both strengthen the Aurora Order's power and cultivate the cornerstone faster. He transformed a chess piece and placed it on the board ahead. Let's begin. His eyes shimmered with a faint golden light as he whispered. The Sand Village, standing deep within the barren desert, had not been living well for the past 2 years. 2 years ago, the previous Kazekage was assassinated and impersonated, and the village was involved in a plan to attack Konoha. Although Konoha eventually forgave them, with the rise of the Rain Village, the Sand Village lost its 4th Kazekage and suffered defeat and reparations. The situation had become almost unbearable. The only thing worth celebrating was that after the battle with Uchiha Sasuke, Gaara had changed a lot. Both his personality and his way of dealing with others were no longer as arrogant and reckless as before. More importantly, Shikaku had been restrained, and with enough sleep, Gaara was no longer irritable or violent. He got along much better with his older siblings. Step by step, Gaara reversed the negative reputation he had in the village and eventually became the 5th Kazekage. It was night. Gaara stood on top of the Kazekage building, looking up at the starry sky. In his mind appeared a graceful figure. Uchiha Sasuke, I heard that over the past 2 years, you've been training with the Sannin, Jiraiya, he said with a gentle smile, one no one had ever seen before. When you come back and find out that I've already become Kazekage, I wonder if you'll be surprised. He was grateful to Uchiha Sasuke. Since that battle, Shikaku had never disturbed him again. Moreover, after learning more about that girl's background, he admired her even more, a girl who always appeared optimistic on the outside. Despite all the suffering she had endured, she still stayed true to herself. Do you think I'm worthy of your respect now? Gaara thought for a moment, then his brow suddenly furrowed. His gaze turned cold as he looked to the side. No need to hide anymore. Come out. Chapter 537, Chapter 475.2, Player Toshi. In the next moment, a figure suddenly emerged from the nearby shadows, exuding a cold and sinister aura. Dressed in jet-black robes, wearing a mask that concealed the face, the figure looked like a ghost or a phantom, completely lifeless. Aurora Order. The moment he saw the other person, Gaara's pupils shrank slightly, and he immediately recognized who they were. A black robe and a mask, these were the signature outfits of the Aurora Order. In the past 2 years, the Aurora Order had risen again with overwhelming power, showing terrifying dominance. No one knew how many members the Aurora Order truly had, but it seemed they all possessed the exact same abilities. The only person anyone could understand was Uchiha Itachi, the one who massacred his entire clan. 5th Kazekage, Gaara. I hope I've found the right person. The masked man's tone was oddly cheerful, though he wore a helpless expression. It's the order of our Holy Sun. I have no choice, so can I trouble you to cooperate and come with me? Holy Sun, you mean Uchiha Itachi? Gaara knew a little about the Aurora Order's internal workings, it was information Konoha had shared voluntarily. That's right. The masked man nodded slightly and said, well. I don't like fighting much. It's troublesome. So please, just cooperate and come back with me, okay? Dream on. In the next moment, Gaara decided to seize the initiative. The massive sand around him suddenly gathered rapidly, wrapping the masked man layer by layer like a coffin. Oh. Caught already. Not good. The masked man tried to struggle, but his acting was so bad it just looked exaggerated. Sand coffin. Gaara's eyes turned icy cold as he clenched his 5 fingers tightly. The sand suddenly tightened, immense pressure pressing in wildly from all directions toward the center. If it were a normal person, they might have been crushed into a pulp instantly. But the masked man's body suddenly emitted a dazzling light. That light was like a blazing sun, releasing a terrifying wave of intense heat that instantly melted the sand coffin. Boom. The Kazekage building was destroyed in an instant by a fierce explosion. The rolling shockwave from the dust and smoke violently shook the village, waking sleeping villagers. Countless ninja witnessed the blazing white light that blossomed in the night. Gaara was blasted several meters away. The layers of his sand armor cracked, and he was slightly shocked, but also confused. This is different from the intel of Konoha. It's neither a blood or flesh ninjutsu, nor related to shadows. What kind of ninjutsu is this? Hey, why fight? Can't you just come with me quietly? From the dust, a figure slowly emerged. The mask on his face was broken, revealing his true appearance. Looking at the pale face, Gaara was surprised. Who are you? This was different from what he had imagined. Unlike the silent members of the Aurora Order described in the intel, this face didn't look human at all. Let me introduce myself. My name is Toshi. White Zetsu. It shouldn't be Toshi. He scratched his head irritably and muttered angrily, so annoying. Don't you know I should be watching anime now? And it's almost time for my medicine. Why can't you just be sensible and not waste my time? Watching anime. Taking medicine. Gaara was confused, completely not understanding what he was talking about. He frowned slightly. Are you crazy? It was meant as a joke, but Toshi showed a delighted expression after hearing it. Oh, you actually know I have delusions. You must be a player too, right? Which ward are you in? I'll find you when I get back. What on earth was going on? Gaara snorted coldly and summoned the massive sand around him. I get it. You're just a lunatic. Boom. Taking advantage of the terrain, there was no shortage of sand here. The sea of sand rose high like a curtain, forming into a terrifying arm. Sand monster arm. The arm, resembling Shikaku's, was covered in strange runes. As it swung, the air violently surged, carrying an immense force that slammed toward Toshi's position. Bang. The massive shockwave caused the ground near the Wind Shadow's tower to collapse and cave in. The sand palm slammed down, shaking the surrounding buildings. The enormous wave of energy shot into the sky, kicking up clouds of dust. Lord Kazekage, are you all right? At that moment, ninja from the sand village hurried from all directions. Don't come closer. Gaara shouted loudly, warning them not to approach. He knew very well that the Aurora Order was no ordinary ninja to be dealt with lightly. The more people gathered, the more distracted he would become. So it's not a player after all. Toshi's joyful expression in the dust suddenly turned cold. Forget it. Dr. Getsu will be back soon. There's no point talking to an NPC like you. Let's finish this quickly, I need to return for treatment. Holy armor. A pure, golden light poured continuously from Toshi's body like a rising tide. Then, on his surface, a shining armor formed. The armor, made from concentrated light, radiated intense heat, warping the very space around it. Enemy. Enemy spotted. The nearby sand ninja couldn't hold back any longer and threw shuriken and explosive tags, hoping to assist Gaara. Shurikens filled the sky, carried by explosive talismans, flying straight at Toshi. But all of them were blocked by that radiant armor. Many didn't even get close before being melted by the intense heat. You're so annoying. A murderous aura gathered between Toshi's brows. He spread his arms half open, as if embracing a divine blessing. Flaring sun. A huge, pure light sphere wrapped in sacred flames suddenly illuminated the dark night sky over the sand village. That sphere, over 10 meters in diameter, looked like a tiny sun, radiating golden light. Its heat immediately withered and cracked the surrounding earth. Air currents churned wildly, and scorching waves surged outward in all directions. The temperature was conservatively estimated to be thousands of degrees. A bunch of NPCs. Just die already. Toshi controlled the giant light sphere, pushing it directly toward the sand village ninja. Not good. Gaara's pupils suddenly narrowed. By instinct alone, he knew how terrifying the energy inside that sphere was. There was no time to think. To protect the sand ninja, he immediately manipulated the surrounding sand, sending it flying up from the ground like crashing waves. Soon, a solid sphere made of layers of sand formed, enclosing the golden light sphere inside. Boom. An earth-shaking roar came from within. The solid sand cracked apart as the raging, violent air currents tore through the defenses like a flood breaking through a dam. Thousands of degrees of scorching heat carried by the air waves surged forward, engulfing hundreds of meters. Everything visible to the naked eye melted under the catastrophic heat. Sand turned into flowing lava. The air currents spread thickly and wildly, like 100 dragons trampling across the land, rushing out in every direction. It was like a mushroom cloud, exploding straight above the sand village. It was as if the sky was collapsing. Chapter 538, Chapter 476.1, Gaara vs. White Zetsu. Huff, huff. In the middle of the crumbling ruins, Gaara knelt on one knee. The once impenetrable armor of sand that covered his body had shattered, breaking apart under the force of the explosion. Jagged grains still clung to his frame, but the protection was gone. His appearance now was more terrifying than reassuring. Each breath came heavy and ragged. Pain surged through his nerves with every heartbeat. Blood dripped from a gash on his forehead, clouding his vision in crimson. A high-pitched ringing echoed in his ears, drowning out the world around him. Too dangerous, he murmured to himself. If it weren't for Mother's power. A moment flashed across his mind, just before the explosion. The sand had moved entirely on its own, wrapping around him like a mother's arms. It had embraced him, shielded him from the brunt of the impact. But that protection had been meant for him alone. Thank you, Mother. The words echoed silently in his heart. Since returning to the village, Jonin Baki had told him everything about the fourth Kazekage, and about Karura. Gaara now knew the truth. His mother had never hated him. She had never regretted bringing him into this world. The emptiness inside him, carved by a lifetime of loneliness, had finally been filled. And at last, Gaara understood the true meaning behind the word etched on his forehead, love. It wasn't a symbol of a Shura who loved only himself. It was his mother Karura's hope that her son would one day learn to love himself. I've changed, Gaara whispered. I'm the Kazekage of this village. With gritted teeth, he pushed himself up from the ground. His legs trembled. His ears still rang. But he wiped the blood from his face, steadied his breath, and stood tall. My mission is to protect the village. To protect its people. The smoke began to settle. But what it revealed was a wasteland. Sunagakure, or what was left of it, was reduced to rubble. Buildings lay in ruins. Dust filled the air like fog. The cries of the injured and dying echoed in every direction. Corpses buried beneath debris. Ninjas fallen in the line of duty. Civilians crushed under what used to be their homes. Blood. Severed limbs. Shattered stones. Screams of agony. It looked like hell itself had descended. Gaara's pupils contracted. Something inside him, something he had not felt in a long time, ignited. A fierce, blazing flame began to rise in his chest. And then, from within the smoke, a voice. Oh. You're still alive. Toshi stood atop the ruins. He bent down, elbow resting on his knee, chin propped on his hand as he watched Gaara with great interest. A hint of amusement danced in his eyes despite the fury on Gaara's face. As expected of the fifth Kazekage, Gaara, he said with a smirk. Even my flaring sun couldn't break through. So this is what they call a mother's love. Shut up. The veins on Gaara's forehead bulged, his face twisting with rage. Those words had clearly hit a nerve. In the blink of an eye, murderous intent surged in Gaara's eyes. His chakra exploded outward like a tidal wave, shaking the air with a violent roar. Within a radius of several hundred meters, sand began to stir, flowing like a living sea. As Gaara slowly raised both arms, walls of sand rose with him, climbing dozens of meters into the air. I am Gaara, fifth Kazekage of the hidden sand. His voice rang out, cold and resolute, carrying the weight of leadership. Standing high above the battlefield, atop a vast sea of sand, he glared down at Toshi. His next words echoed across the entire village. Sunagakure shinobi, ANBU, evacuate the villagers immediately. Do not come near me. With a rumble that shook the ground, the towering sea of sand surged forward. Its terrifying pressure loomed like a mountain as it crashed down toward Toshi. Boom. A violent tremor shook the earth. Hundreds of tons of sand crashed together, forming a titanic wave that blotted out the sky. Dust and energy burst outward, crackling through the air like thunder. The roar was deafening, like 10,000 raging beasts charging all at once. Come on. Toshi shouted, a crazed grin spreading across his face. Now this is exciting. There wasn't a trace of fear in his eyes. Wrapped in golden armor that shimmered with holy light, he stepped forward. He clenched his fist. His 5 fingers tightened. Only by defeating you will this boring game finally become interesting. He threw a punch. Blazing golden light erupted, tearing through the darkness. And for a moment, it was as if the night itself had been devoured by radiance. The scorching, blistering heat felt as if a second sun had collided with them, its terrifying power shaking heaven and earth. In the sky above, shock waves rolled through the air, thunder echoing across the horizon. As the currents roared, countless fierce winds ravaged the landscape, tearing the towering sand sea, dozens of meters high, to shreds, its force like an apocalypse. Gaara, thrown from the shattered sand sea by a single punch, flew dozens of meters, carving a trail of wind as he spun through the air, his face twisted in shock. What kind of jutsu is this guy using? Gaara's pupils contracted as he immediately summoned the sand beneath his feet into a floating cloud, halting his backward momentum. Rumble. Toshi's foot struck the ground. A horrifying force collapsed the ruins beneath him, visible shockwaves pillar-ing outward for hundreds of meters, propelling him forward like a streak of light. Sandfall spear burial. High-density sand burst from the ground in spiraling layers, ensnaring Toshi's body. At the same time, sand refined with layers of underground metal solidified into the shape of a lance as Gaara formed a grip with his 5 fingers and hurled it forward. The ultimate spear, Shikaku's spear. Boom. The lance tore through the air, its speed and power spiking to their peak in an instant. Almost too fast to track with the naked eye, it became a mere afterimage as it streaked across the sky, dragging the crackling sonic boom behind it toward Toshi. Sacred light. Toshi tilted backward, arms outstretched as though embracing the sun. In the next moment, a magnificent, pure pillar of blazing light descended from the sky, enveloping him completely. The sand sea trapping him dissolved in an instant, yet Toshi, freed, did not retreat. Instead, he gathered the radiant light he had just absorbed, forging it into a spear of absolute purity and launched it with precision. Spear of Light. Chapter 539, Chapter 476, Sequence 2 Sun Chaser. The strongest Shikaku spear met the Spear of Light. In the next instant, the two clashed above the village, and the very world seemed to lose its color. Then, in a heartbeat, a deafening roar shattered the sky, louder than any thunder. Time seemed to stand still as vicious winds roared across the sky. Torrents of energy swirled and stretched outward like a rising mushroom cloud, scattering endless dust and debris. At its peak, the radiant glow expanded until it shone like a miniature sun, illuminating the entire hidden sand village. Shikaku's spear shattered instantly under its onslaught. Fortunately, Gaara's reflexes were razor-sharp, and he just managed to dodge the speeding beam of light. But behind him, the defensive walls of the sand village weren't so lucky. The sturdy barrier was pierced clean through, and the resulting shockwave shot up into the sky, its blinding brilliance like a second sun, filling every witness with dread. There was no hand seal, no warning, Gaara thought, cold sweat trickling down his forehead as he frantically analyzed this new ninjutsu. At the same time, he rode his sand clouds through the sky, planning to lure Toshi beyond the village limits and minimize civilian casualties. Think fast. Gaara's mind raced, searching for the only way to win. A technique requiring no hand seals, not truly ninjutsu, aligned with fire, its heat and destructive power were unlike anything he'd ever seen. Ribbons of solar flame formed meteors that streaked past him. With each pass, he felt the scorching heat threaten to vaporize his blood, and the pure light burned his eyes. Almost there. Everyone nearly evacuated from the village, Gaara gritted his teeth in determination. But Toshi sensed his plan and halted in midair. Tisk, you're running around like a fly. Toshi sneered, growing impatient, he had medicine to take on schedule. Dodge if you can, he declared, throwing back his arms as the sun's overwhelming light pierced the clouds and rained down from the night sky. Let's see where you hide now. No. Gaara's eyes widened, but it was too late for rescue. Boom. A pure column of light, infused with the sun's power, blazed with scorching white intensity. It pierced the darkness like dawn itself, yet it brought not warmth but lethal death. The horrifying heat instantaneously vaporized hundreds of lives. Vast tracts of land fractured and collapsed. Countless screams of agony rang out across the shinobi village. You bastard. Gaara stood frozen in place, fury surging through his heart. Ha, now you're not running. Toshi grinned, a sinister smile twisting his lips. What do you take human lives for? Gaara ground his teeth and glared. Obviously, they're game characters, Toshi shrugged casually and said with utter nonchalance. What else could they be? You're all products of my imagination. Your only purpose is to entertain me, so you should feel honored. Ha 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 ha. Madman, an utter madman. Furious beyond measure, Gaara shouted, it's settled, you're completely insane. Yep, I'm a madman. Toshi nodded soberly. Play with you for another half hour, then I'll take my medicine. At those words, Gaara felt his throat tighten and could no longer speak. This guy, he openly admitted he was insane. What, aren't you happy? Toshi spread his hands and tilted his head. Who told you to buzz around like a fly? What if you delayed my medicine time? Sand prison barrage. Gaara refused to waste another word. A massive spiral of sand spears whirled overhead with terrifying force and crashed down toward Toshi. That's too weak. Toshi snorted, his body glowing with a pure, blazing light that rippled outward like a halo. Solar domain. A ring of searing white radiance formed around him, melting and erasing everything it touched in an instant. Pure white beam. A scorching ray shot straight at Gaara. The beam punched through his chest, yet no blood sprayed, only sand crumbled away as if withered. A clone. Toshi paused in surprise. Seizing his moment, Gaara, who had been lying in wait, snapped his hands into a seal. Sand infused with jagged rock and metal churned like roaring waves. In an instant it rose around Toshi, burying him under its crushing weight. Sandfall of annihilation. The sand sea engulfed him like a natural disaster. Its shifting currents dragged him deeper into the earth. Not bad, Toshi laughed maniacally. But it won't kill me. With a burst of pure white light from his back, 6 luminous wings unfurled like divine plumage. The sand slid away under their power. An invisible aura dropped around Gaara like the weight of a mountain. He stared in horror. What on earth are you? Bathed in holy radiance and crowned by 6 angelic wings, Toshi gazed down at Gaara as though from a higher realm. Me. He smiled with eerie calm. He grinned slightly. You can think of me as an angel. Angel. Gaara felt like something had clogged his throat. He didn't know what to say. Feel honored. Toshi wore a satisfied expression as he looked down at the foolish humans below. I'm a sequence too, a sun chaser, a true angel. So what? Gaara growled through clenched teeth, breaking free from that twisted illusion. Even if you're an angel, I won't let you harm my village. TSK. It's almost time. Toshi seemed to sense something. He suddenly smiled wide. This was fun, but I have to go take my medicine soon, so, it's time for you to exit. He raised his arms like pulling a bowstring. A burning, pure white brilliance condensed and formed a bow in his hands. The bowstring was made of white flames, drawn back to its full arc. An arrow, forged purely from sunlight, appeared on the string, glowing with divine purity. With this move, let's end it. Sun Chaser. The bowstring exploded with power. The blazing white arrow tore through the night sky, drawing a dazzling arc of light. Like a falling star, it dragged behind it a radiant tail, like a sun crashing from the sky. To the people of the sand village below, the light grew bigger, and bigger, and bigger. The burning white arrow was like a falling sun, and its force pulled behind it dragon-like waves of energy, roaring down from the sky. Absolute Sand Shield. Gaara summoned a massive wall of sand, forming petals of defense that bloomed outward like a great flower. Its vast scale shielded the entire sand village. Boom. A thunderous explosion, like the sky being torn apart, crashed down. The star-like destructive power poured down onto the massive sand wall with unstoppable might. Shock waves rippled outward in rings, like tsunamis in the sky, spreading farther and farther from the impact point. A mushroom cloud like the sun rose high into the sky, releasing a devastating, blinding light. A colossal sphere of pure white light hovered above, and in just moments, it shattered Gaara's sand barrier. The vast currents of force poured downward like a heavenly waterfall. Back already. Inside the Aurora Order, Uchiha Itachi sat in front of the ruined shrine, playing with a kunai. He watched the entrance with keen interest. Yeah, I'm back. The person coming through the door was Toshi, carrying an unconscious Gaara on his shoulder, his whole body charred black like coal. He casually dropped Gaara to the ground, scratched his head, and said with disdain, "Next time, don't come to me for this kind of thing, got it?" How did he get beaten up like this? Itachi's mouth twitched as he stared at the burnt, almost roasted charcoal lying on the ground. Just got a little excited and went overboard. Toshi waved his hand and turned to leave. I'm off. It's nothing important. Don't call me next time. All right. Itachi looked at Toshi as he was about to leave, a slight smile curling at the corner of his lips. Is the sun pathway fun? Not bad. Feels way better than the spectator pathway. Toshi thought for a moment, then looked back at him. Why don't you try the other pathway? I think the witch is pretty good. Itachi's mouth twitched again, and he snorted coldly. No thanks. Take care of yourself, you lunatic. Chapter 540, Chapter 477.1, Hikari appears. Toshi slowly opened his eyes. What greeted him was the familiar pure white ceiling. Finally back. That immersion lasted way too long. He scratched his head and shook his groggy head, muttering complaints. Immersion, that was the word he had come up with. Just like in the Matrix, it referred to being fully submerged in a virtual world. Pretty similar, wasn't it? Just then, 2 familiar figures walked into the room. They wore white lab coats, each with a pen clipped to the chest pocket. Director Getsu. Nurse Hikari. Upon seeing their faces, Toshi beamed with a bright smile. Looks like I timed it just right, it's medicine time, isn't it? Oh. Experiencing symptoms again. Director Getsu frowned slightly. He pulled out the pen from his coat and took out a small notepad, scribbling something down. What kind of situation this time? You remember what I told you, don't you? Of course, Director Getsu. I always keep your words in mind. Toshi replied with pride, his face full of confidence. That world is fake. I'm just experiencing it. I won't get lost in it like before. Good. I'm relieved you understand. Director Getsu turned his head to the side, looking at the young nurse standing quietly. She had long black hair that reached her waist and a beautiful face, though she always seemed a little cold. Hikari, give him the injection. Yes, Director. Nurse Hikari walked over gracefully. She took out a syringe and injected white Zetsu with the medicine. Thank you, Nurse Hikari. Toshi grinned. Then he added, I've behaved pretty well this month, haven't I? Can I go out for a walk in the courtyard? Hikari paused for a moment, then looked at Director Getsu. All right. Go ahead. Director Getsu adjusted his glasses and said gently, however, there's a time limit. Only 30 minutes. Thank you so much, Director Getsu. Toshi was thrilled. After all, being stuck in a hospital room every day was uncomfortable. Every month, the hospital selected well-behaved patients, those without violent tendencies and who cooperated with treatment. Those patients were allowed to go outside for a walk and some fresh air. He had worked hard for an entire month just for this chance. After today's visitation ended, Director Getsu left with Hikari and returned to his office on the second floor. The moment they stepped inside, Hikari frowned slightly. She turned to Director Getsu and asked anxiously, Sogetsu, are you really going to let him out? Why not? Director Getsu, no, he should be called Sogetsu, sat down in the chief physician's chair, tilted his head, and looked out at the lawn through the window. He chuckled softly. Since he still refuses to give up, why not use this chance and let him see for himself? Wouldn't that be better? You mean? White Zetsu is still suspicious. Hikari paused for half a second, clearly in disbelief. But, he seemed so. Yes, he seemed very obedient. As if he truly believed it. Sogetsu tapped his index finger lightly against the table. The corners of his lips curved up slightly. But Hikari, don't forget. He was once a Beyonder on the spectator pathway. He's also been to Grozel's travels. Of course he won't believe everything so easily. Even if he appears to accept it for a while, doubt will return soon enough. But letting him out will just make it easier for him to spot flaws, won't it? Hikari still didn't understand. The more we try to stop him, the more he'll believe that something's wrong with this world. Uchiha Sogetsu shook his head and smiled faintly. Besides, with my current abilities, creating a realistic city isn't that difficult. Originally, the world outside the hospital was just a sea of collective subconscious. But as he spoke, his hand never stopped. The pen in his hand scribbled line after line, quickly filling up the entire medical chart. Driven by curiosity, Hikari moved closer. She leaned in and peeked at what he was writing. Eh? Sogetsu, are you writing a story? Hikari tucked a strand of hair behind her crystal-clear ear. Her soft pink lips curled slightly, and her dark, shiny eyes sparkled with curiosity. This story is pretty interesting, isn't it? Uchiha Sogetsu put down his pen. The medical file in front of him was filled with writing. Suddenly, Hikari reached out her smooth, pale arms and hugged Sogetsu from behind. Uchiha Sogetsu paused slightly, the scent of something fresh lingering around his nose. What's wrong, Hikari? Then, she gently rested her head on his shoulder, her voice soft in his ear. It took me so long to find you. I don't want to be apart from you again, not even for a second. Sogetsu. Uchiha Sogetsu rubbed his nose, looking a little embarrassed. To be honest, not long ago, he had just found Uchiha Hikari again. She had been asleep for more than a decade in a ruin left behind by Otsutsuki Himura. From a young lowly, she had grown into a stunning beauty. And now, she was completely stuck to him. He raised his hand and gently ruffled her hair, speaking with a hint of guilt. Sorry, Hikari. I made you wait for so long before I came to find you. Hikari shook her head lightly and held him tighter, as if trying to melt completely into him. I've never blamed you, Sogetsu. You must have had something really important to do, right? It's okay. I'll always wait for you. I always have, and I always will. Logically speaking, after ascending to Sequence 1 and becoming the King of Angel, Uchiha Sogetsu shouldn't have felt human emotions this strongly. But thanks to the strong faith anchors from the Dragon Raja world, his humanity remained solid, and that allowed him to feel a trace of guilt. The faith over in the Dragon Raja world is growing well. Sogetsu's thoughts quickly drifted there, and a bold idea suddenly popped into his mind. Wait, if I can gather faith from multiple worlds, wouldn't that help me stabilize my self-image, and maybe even resist the consciousness of God Almighty? Sogetsu, what are you thinking about? Hikari noticed that the person resting in her arms seemed distracted. Tilting her head, she leaned in close, her curious gaze fixed on his face. Sogetsu gave a small smile. Just thinking about something. He turned to look at her. That thing I mentioned last time, have you made your decision? Which path do you want to take? I've already decided. Hikari shifted and sat directly on his lap, curling up in his arms like she always used to. Her voice was soft but firm. I want to choose the error pathway. That way, even if something happens to you in the future, I can keep living. Always. Forever. And maybe I'll find a way to bring you back. Sogetsu was caught off guard. Her words left him momentarily speechless. You don't have to go that far, Hikari, he said with a bitter smile. You're a perfect fit for the spectator pathway. And with me here, I can make sure nothing happens to you. Given her talents, the spectator pathway was undoubtedly the best match for her. But no matter how many times he suggested it, Hikari had always refused. Today was no different. It's okay, Sogetsu, she replied, smiling sweetly. I've already made up my mind. I'm choosing error. This time, it won't be like before. At the very least, I'll be able to carry some of the burden with you, right? Chapter 541, Chapter 477.2, Illogical Story. The error pathway, among even the legendary survivor trio, was infamous for being nearly impossible to kill. Leonard's grandfather, or that troublemaker Amon, had danced with danger for years and survived. That said everything. Sogetsu sighed. All right. If that's your choice, I won't try to stop you anymore. Deep down, he knew there was no changing her mind. That girl seemed fragile, but once she made up her mind, she would never change it so easily. Her stubbornness was deadly. After exchanging for the Sequence 9 potion of the error pathway from the system shop, he handed the vial brimming with potion to Uchiha Hikari and softly reminded her, don't force yourself. If anything happens, be sure to tell me right away. Understood. If the members of the Twilight Hermit Order could see this scene, they'd probably be dying of envy. They'd risk life and limb, braving wind and rain day after day to finally obtain this potion, and yet she got it so easily. What's more, she even had the Sequence 1 King of Angel watching over her attentively. Such treatment could make anyone green with envy. Hikari took the Sequence 9 Marauder's potion and drank it in one gulp. Finally, she was qualified to help Sogetsu, just like before. Soon, he would wait for her again, and soon she would truly be able to aid Sogetsu. Sunshine, lawn, and fresh air. Toshi finally stepped out of the ward again and onto the lawn outside the mental hospital. He spread his arms to embrace the sunlight and took a deep breath. Yet a sudden shadow crossed his face. Is it real or fake? Let me test it once more. With that, Toshi immediately broke into a sprint toward the hospital's outer wall. 1 step, 2 steps, he approached the wall in a continuous motion. One couldn't help but admit, his movements were astonishingly swift. Almost before the guards could react, he was clinging to the wall over 2 meters high, on the verge of climbing over. Wait. Patient number 250, come back here. A piercing scream rang out from inside the ward, it's bad, it's bad. Patient 250 is trying to escape. Stop him. The patrolling guard snatched up his stun baton and charged at Toshi as he tried to scale the wall. Come down now. This is your only warning. If you don't comply, we'll use force. Humph, what idiots, Toshi sneered. He pressed his foot against the wall, braced himself with both hands, and vaulted cleanly over. He landed and went into a long-strided sprint toward the busy street. Though it looked aimless, he ran with unwavering purpose, always heading in the same direction. The reason was simple. If this world were false, there must be an edge, a boundary where unreality lay. Once he found that edge, he could turn the tables. And even if he failed, the worst that awaited him was to be locked up again. I refuse to accept this, he growled through clenched teeth, his eyes burning with resolve. I refuse to believe any of this is fake. There must be a boundary to this illusion. This is a dream, a realm of the subconscious. You can't fool me. The bustling pedestrian street was alive with cars and crowds. Onlookers stared as Toshi, clad in the striped uniform of the mental hospital, tore through the sidewalk like a madman. After half an hour of relentless running, his breath finally gave out and he came to a gasping halt. Stop right there, patient 250, called a guard from a patrol car that had just pulled up. Damn it, I can't get caught here. Toshi's face twisted into a snarl as his eyes snapped to the kindergarten that had just let out for the day. Without hesitation he burst inside, grabbed a child, pressed his fingers into the boy's throat, and roared at the rushing guard, get back, all of you, stay far away. Don't come near me, understood? The mental hospital guard jumped in shock and called out, no, please don't do it, calm down. Give me a car. Toshi snarled as he tightened his grip. Hurry up, give me a car or I'll kill him. Chaos erupted in front of the kindergarten as a crowd swarmed the gate. Police cars screeched to a halt and SWAT officers raised sniper rifles, fixing red laser dots on Toshi's forehead. Perfect, just as planned. Toshi's eyes glittered with manic excitement instead of fear. If this world was fake, he wouldn't truly die, and if it was real, life was worse than death, so he might as well end it here. His mind teetered on the edge, collapsing under the weight of 2 conflicting realities and driving him toward a desperate gamble. Just then, a disheveled middle-aged woman in patched, ragged clothes stumbled forward out of the crowd. Toshi. The piercing cry yanked Toshi out of his violent reverie and back into reality. He stared at the woman before him, memories flooding his mind, and instinctively called out, "Mom, why are you here? Toshi, please, put down that child." Tears streamed down her face as she knelt in the dirt, bowing her head again and again. Her forehead turned red and bloody from the force of her prostrations, yet she kept pleading, "Toshi, we have no money left. I beg you, please don't be impulsive. Just put the child down." Mother. A surge of emotions he had never felt before filled the emptiness in Toshi's heart. It was a strange, wondrous sensation. Her desperate call seemed to touch the softest, most vulnerable part of his soul. Suddenly, he remembered. When he was sick, it was his mother's hand gripping his, her voice whispering his name. When he lost control and hurt others, she ignored her own pain and held him tight, refusing to let go even as he lashed out. She had sewn every winter coat from scraps saved by scrimping and saving, all to keep him warm. He recalled as a child envying a classmate's shoes, and how at a dim lantern's light his mother mended clothes stitch by stitch, so she could finally buy him a brand new pair. And every time he fell ill, she carried him through rainy nights, searching door to door for a doctor. Countless memories stabbed at Toshi's heart like needles. They finally pried open his long-buried emotions. Unable to contain himself, he fell to his knees and let out a shuddering cry, "Mom, I can't tell. I really can't tell." Inside the attending physician's office at the hospital, the patient file, its pages covered in dense handwriting, turned slowly on its own, despite the still air. At last, the pages came to rest on the final entry. Inspired by his mother's influence, Toshi at last recognized reality. He wept out, "I can't tell, I really can't tell," his spirit broken, and was escorted back to White Mental Hospital by security. Through a series of coincidental events, poor Toshi finally saw the truth. It doesn't make logical sense, but that is how the story goes. A hand gently closed the file. Sogetsu pinched the bridge of his nose, stared at the cover, and murmured to himself, "Have I gone too far?" Chapter 542, Chapter 478.1, Request for Help. Early in the morning, a hawk soared across the clear sky over Konoha and flew straight into the intelligence division. The Umbu worked very efficiently. After decoding the secret message tied to the hawk's ankle, they immediately sent it to the Hokage's office. "What is this? Work this early in the morning?" Tsunade looked exhausted, lying on the desk. Her impressively large chest was pressed into a breathtaking half-arc shape. "Lady Tsunade, don't let anyone see you like this," Shizen said helplessly. "I don't care. I only slept for 3 hours." Tsunade rubbed her eyes, dark circles showing she was drained of energy, her face full of resentment as she paced in circles. "If I find out who has troubled this early, I swear I'll beat them to death." "Lady Tsunade, what you just said is really dangerous." "Please be careful," Shizen said, lowering her head, silently complaining, "Isn't it because you insisted on gambling last night that you slept so late?" Before she finished speaking, the Umbu knocked and entered, handing over the decoded secret message. "Hokage-sama, this is a call for help from the Sand Village." "The Sand Village? A call for help?" Tsunade was slightly stunned. She quickly straightened up, abandoning her lazy attitude, and seriously took the message from the Umbu. She unfolded the message. After simplifying, it was not much and could be read in seconds. Her expression grew grave. She stood upright from her chair. "Immediately send for Kakashi's team." "Yes, Hokage-sama." The Umbu turned and left the room. "Lady Tsunade, what exactly happened in the Sand Village?" Shizen held the little pig in her arms. Seeing the serious expression on Tsunade's face, she couldn't help but ask. "Yesterday, the Aurora Order attacked the Sand Village. After defeating the Kazekage Gaara, they directly abducted him," Tsunade said, her eyes dark and heavy. She pressed her palm hard on the table, leaving a deep mark. "Those guys, after being silent for 2 years, have now set their sights on the tailed beasts." "Tailed beasts?" Shizen froze, then seemed to recall something. She squeezed the little pig's rear anxiously. "Lady Tsunade, if the Aurora Order's target is the tailed beasts, then, what about Naruto? That's what worries me the most." Tsunade rubbed her throbbing forehead and sighed. "Naruto Uzumaki is with Orochimaru now. I don't know if he'll be targeted too. Speaking of Naruto, that kid should be coming back soon, right?" Shizen suddenly asked. Unconsciously, 2 years have already passed. Tsunade looked out toward Konoha, a flicker of hope shining in her eyes. "I wonder how that kid is doing with Jiraiya. She must have gotten stronger." Shizen thought back to the power Sasuke showed 2 years ago and couldn't help but smile. After all, that's Lord Jiraiya. "Don't overestimate Jiraiya," Tsunade shook her head, a faint smile playing on her lips. "I admire that kid's talent more. Among all the people I've seen, she's probably the most outstanding." "You like that kid so much, no wonder you secretly taught her." Shizen pursed her lips and chuckled softly. "Are you jealous?" Tsunade smiled and teased Shizen with a glance. No way, how could I be jealous of that kid? Shizen pouted, showing a displeased expression. I'm actually happy that kid inherited your legacy. Who would have thought that kid's talent was so amazing? Tsunade rubbed her forehead, shrugged, and showed a helpless expression. In just a few days, she learned my super strength. If there had been more time, even medical ninjutsu wouldn't have been difficult for her. To be honest, that kid's talent was truly astonishing. Especially in chakra control precision, even Tsunade found it terrifying. Because of her love for talent, she secretly taught her the technique of super strength. As expected, on the way back to the village from Tanzaka town, in just a few days, that kid had already mastered her super strength. Moreover, thanks to that kid's unusual physique, the super strength erupted with unprecedented power, so terrifying that even Jiraiya was left jaw-dropped. He even remarked, "Is this the genius who inherited the Uchiha bloodline?" The reason was simple, it was just too overwhelming. While they were both sighing over this, Kakashi pushed open the door. "Hokage-sama, you called me in so urgently. Is something wrong? Take a look at this, Kakashi." Tsunade handed over a secret message, then crossed her hands and rested her chin, quietly waiting. The Sand Village was attacked by the Aurora Order. Kakashi was shocked as soon as he read the first line of the message. Then as he read further, his worry deepened. Suddenly appearing members of the Aurora Order. Their abilities seemed to be light, capable of causing explosions and high temperatures. After severely injuring the Kazekage, they forcibly kidnapped him. Their target is the tailed beasts. As an elite jonin of Konoha, Kakashi naturally recognized the most critical information from the intelligence at a glance. That's right. The Aurora Order disappeared for so long. Although there have been reports in the past 2 years, they were never serious. Tsunade frowned deeply and spoke solemnly. This sudden appearance is like a thunderstrike. They directly took the Jinchuriki of the Sand Village. Their obvious target is the tailed beasts. Could they be trying to gather all the tailed beasts? But what's their purpose? To start a war? Or something else? Hokage-sama, is there still no news of the first and second Hokage? Kakashi put down the message, as if he had thought of something, and asked, if we can contact the first and second Hokage, maybe we can find out what conspiracy the Aurora Order is truly plotting. Since the death of the fourth Hokage, the first and second Hokage, both reanimated by Edo Tensei, had disappeared from Konoha. For more than 10 years, they never appeared once, nor was there any news of them. Namikaze Minato had returned once about a decade ago, but he quickly vanished again, leaving no trace or message behind. The 3 missing shinobi all shared one thing in common, they had once investigated the Aurora Order. Tsunade shook her head at this and sighed deeply. It's a pity. If there had been any news about Grandpa and second Grandpa, I wouldn't be so troubled. After a brief pause, she turned to Kakashi. What do you think we should do? Should we respond to Tsunagekyu's call for help? The Hokage-sama, I believe we must respond to Tsunagekyu, Kakashi said seriously. In this era, the Aurora Order is the greatest threat. No matter what, we need to unite our strength if we want to stand against them. You're right. That's exactly what I was thinking. Tsunade nodded slightly and smiled faintly. So, do you have any suggestions on who should be sent? I can lead the Umbu on the first wave of support, Kakashi offered. He scratched his head helplessly. As for the second wave, Asuma's team can head out after they've rested. Asuma's team probably won't work, Tsunade rubbed her temples, feeling the strain of insufficient manpower. She sighed helplessly. Asuma's squad has to investigate the mysterious disappearances along Konoha's border. Kurenai Yuhi's team is already out on a mission, so there's almost no one available right now. I remember Hyuga Niji from Guy's team is still in the village, right? Suddenly, Kakashi thought of someone. How about having Niji, Sakura, and Yamato join me as a team to support Tsunagekyu? Hyuga Niji had just been promoted to Jonin, but his experience was still somewhat lacking. However, his reconnaissance skills would perfectly complement the team's weaknesses. As for Haruno Sakura, she had been interning in the Konoha hospital for quite some time, making her the ideal fit for the team's needs. The last member Yamato was carefully chosen by Kakashi after deep consideration. He was brought in as a reinforcement for the squad. Having served in the Umbu for a long time, he was highly experienced. With that, the complete ninja team was formed, fully equipped and ready. Chapter 543, Chapter 478.2, Genius Sasuke. This suggestion is good. Tsunade nodded in agreement, her expression serious. Kakashi, in the name of the Hokage, I order you to assemble the team and immediately head to the Sand Village for support. Hokage-sama, considering the possibility that we may face the Aurora Order head-on this time, Kakashi paused briefly before continuing, I think it's necessary to recall Team Guy as reinforcements and send them as the second batch. What do you think? I will have the Umbu notify Team Guy. Once they return, they will depart immediately. Tsunade agreed, her gaze heavy as she looked at Kakashi. Be extremely careful, Kakashi. This was Konoha's first chance since the fourth Hokage's death, and the disappearance of the first, second, and Minato, to directly confront the Aurora Order and even uncover their secrets. No caution was too much, they had to handle this carefully. I will gather the other members right away, Hokage-sama. Kakashi hurried off. The mission was urgent, and they had to reach the sand village as soon as possible. Soon, at the gates of Konoha, Sakura Haruno, Niji Hyuga, and Yamato, all packed and ready, waited for Kakashi before setting off towards the sand village. Half a day after Kakashi's team left, in the afternoon, Jiraiya, his hair completely white, returned from training with Uchiha Sasuke. Looking at the newly refreshed Konoha, Sasuke, who had grown from a girl into a young lady, smiled gently. We finally returned, Jiraiya-sensei. Yeah. Finally, I'm free from you. Jiraiya's expression was one of utter resignation, making it hard not to think he had been through some kind of torment. Sensei. Sasuke glanced at Jiraiya, who was teasing her. You make it sound like I was abusing you. Jiraiya sighed deeply. It wasn't exactly torture, but these past 2 years, Sasuke had completely drained him. Don't get it wrong, it's literally drained. Sasuke's talent was just too outstanding, so much that in only 2 short years, Jiraiya felt like he had nothing left to teach. As the two talked, they stepped through the gates of Konoha. After 2 years, it seemed Konoha had finally shaken off the shadow of the third Hokage and regained its vibrant life. Many buildings and streets that were damaged during Konoha's collapse had been repaired over those 2 years, and the village was even livelier than before. Strange, it feels like a lot of people are missing. Sasuke looked around the street, even using sensory ninjutsu, but didn't detect anyone familiar. Maybe they're out on missions. Jiraiya didn't think it was unusual and led Sasuke towards the Hokage building. What? They're back. Tsunade was shocked when she heard the news, slamming the table into pieces. Nearby, Shizen sighed and covered her face. This is already the 3rd table this month, Lady Tsunade. Please, for my sake, can you be more careful? Sorry. Tsunade quickly apologized, waving her hand. At that moment, Jiraiya and Sasuke pushed open the door and saw the Hokage office in complete disorder, falling into a brief silence. Ahem, welcome back. Tsunade coughed nervously, then forced a bright smile. By agreement, I'm leaving this girl to you, Jiraiya pushed Sasuke forward with a regretful look. You have no idea how miserable these 2 years have been for me. Lady Tsunade, we're back. Sasuke's lips curled into a sweet smile as she tilted her head slightly and greeted Tsunade. Good to have you back. Good to have you back. Tsunade showed a relieved smile, but when her gaze fell on Sasuke's forehead, it suddenly stiffened. Your forehead. On the young girl's forehead was a pale purple, diamond-shaped mark. Her high nose bridge, thin lips, paired with those eyes like cherry blossoms, and her black hair tied up in a high ponytail gave her a look both sharp and fresh, the perfect blend of a ninja's sharpness and a woman's youthful charm. Sasuke touched the diamond-shaped mark on her forehead and smiled. That's right, Lady Tsunade. Just as you thought. You really mastered the Yin seal. Both Tsunade and Shizen were stunned. They knew how terrifying the chakra control and amount required for the Yin seal technique were. When Tsunade first explained the principles of this jutsu to Sasuke, she never thought this young girl could learn it. No matter how talented, it would normally take years of deep immersion, along with medical ninjutsu training. If Sasuke had focused solely on medical ninjutsu and the Yin seal, it wouldn't be so surprising to learn it in 2 years. But Sasuke had been training under Jiraiya, practicing ninjutsu and taijutsu, while simultaneously studying medical ninjutsu and the Yin seal. To master it in just 2 years was incredible, her talent was terrifying. There's more surprises yet, Jiraiya said with a sly smile, watching Tsunade and Shizen's shocked expressions. Finally, someone could truly share in his amazement. Sasuke's talent was simply astonishing. More. Tsunade swallowed hard, stiffly turning her neck to look at Jiraiya. What else? In these 2 years, this child improved that ninjutsu, Jiraiya chuckled. What exactly it is, I'm keeping secret for now. But paired with the Yin seal, it creates a truly terrifying effect. How scary is it? Tsunade obviously didn't believe him. Fine, then I'll show you. Jiraiya said as he lifted his shirt, revealing the inner lining of his chainmail and a set of 8 strong abdominal muscles. However, right in the middle of his stomach was a terrifying, fierce-looking fist mark. With Tsunade and Shizen's shocked eyes on him, he said calmly, in my life, I've faced several life-threatening moments. One of them was when I peeped on you while you were bathing, and I nearly got beaten to death. Tisk. Tsunade curled her lips in disdain. There was another time, Sasuke. Jiraiya's expression grew serious as he spoke in a low voice. This scar is from when Sasuke finished a jutsu and, to test its power, left it on me. It kept me bedridden for 3 whole months. Sasuke, standing nearby, looked clearly guilty. Sorry, sensei. I couldn't control the strength at that time. Ouch. The air in the room seemed to drop a few degrees. Just when Tsunade and Shizen thought this was the limit, they heard Jiraiya say softly, "There's one more surprise. I almost forgot. Sasuke has already started training in Sage Jutsu. At this rate, she shouldn't take long before mastering it." Tsunade? Shizen? At that moment, both had the same thought deep inside. Is this girl really human? What does it even mean to be a genius? Chapter 544, Chapter 479.1, Sasuke vs Tsunade. The Konoha training field. Sasuke had changed into a sharp, battle-ready ninja outfit, personally tailored by Jiraiya. She wore a loose white shirt on top, black pants below, ninja boots on her feet, and a sword slung diagonally at her waist. "Lady Tsunade, maybe we should change the opponent." Looking across the training ground at Tsunade, who was also dressed for battle, Sasuke turned to Jiraiya with an awkward expression, clearly hoping her sensei would step in and say something. It felt like overkill to have the 5th Hokage herself come to test the results of 2 years of training. The reason for this was that after hearing Jiraiya describe Sasuke's progress, Tsunade didn't quite believe it. So she dragged both of them to the training field, under the noble excuse that she wanted to personally verify whether Sasuke had really improved as much as Jiraiya claimed. Of course, Sasuke suspected the real reason was that Tsunade simply didn't want to deal with paperwork. So she used this as an excuse to sneak out, leaving poor Shizen behind in the Hokage's office. Jiraiya sat casually on a tree branch, hands behind his head, looking completely at ease. "Relax, it's fine. Tsunade's the perfect person to test your progress. She's not like me. You go all out. Your sensei believes in you." He even gave her a thumbs up, flashing his teeth as if they sparkled. "What? You've been training under Jiraiya for 2 years and now you look down on me?" Tsunade pretended to be displeased as she cracked her knuckles. "Little girl, I was fighting on the battlefield before you were even born. No need to worry about me." As soon as the words left her mouth, she slammed her foot into the ground. Boom. It was as if a massive boulder had crashed into the earth. That terrifying force blasted downward, tearing apart the entire training field's grassy surface. A wave of air surged up more than 10 meters high, kicking up a thick curtain of dust that shot into the sky like a rising storm. In the blink of an eye, Tsunade crossed the distance and threw a heavy punch with clenched fingers. Boom. A shockwave exploded from the tip of the fist, roaring like a cannon blast. Even before the punch landed, the force of the wind alone made Sasuke's breath hitch. Her hair flew wildly in the violent gusts, cheeks stretched as if pulled by invisible hands, like she was staring down a tsunami. So this is, the 5th Hokage of Konoha, Senju Tsunade. Lightning style, Chidori current. Facing Tsunade's monstrous punch, Sasuke cloaked herself in blazing white lightning, like armor forged from thunder. The Chidori shifted and surged, forming sharp, crackling arcs like a hedgehog of energy. The grass around her scorched, the very air turned searing hot, and violent arcs leapt out, weaving into a dense electric net. Spreading lightning chakra throughout her body to defend and attack at once. Tsunade's seasoned eyes immediately caught the essence of the technique. For an average shinobi, there would have been only one choice, retreat. But her gaze sharpened. She stepped forward with her left foot, directly entering the storm of lightning without hesitation. Taking the full force of the lightning release with her bare body, the knuckles of her snow-white fist tightened until they paled. Though her arm looked delicate, veins bulged like coiled dragons as she drove her fist into Sasuke, who hadn't expected her to charge straight through. Boom. Sasuke had known Tsunade was physically strong, but she never imagined the woman could break through the Chidori current head-on. With just one hit, she was launched dozens of meters back, a roaring wave of air pressure trailing behind her. She crashed through tree trunks like a cannonball. "TCH, that monster strength of hers just keeps getting more terrifying," Jiraiya said, perched on a branch nearby. Watching Sasuke get blasted away, he didn't look concerned at all. In fact, he smirked. Finally, someone who can teach that brat a lesson. Ah, damn, I might have overdone it a bit. Only then did Tsunade realize she'd let herself go in the heat of the moment. She turned and caught sight of Jiraiya's smug face, and instantly blew up. "Quit gawking and help her already. I lost control for a second. Damn it, I hope she's not seriously hurt." No need to rush like that, Tsunade." Jiraiya remained calmly seated, like an old fisherman waiting for a bite, and said in a relaxed tone, "That kid isn't as fragile as you think. The real fight is just about to begin." "What?" Tsunade froze for a brief moment, but her heart suddenly skipped a beat, as if she had sensed a terrifying presence. She turned her head toward the trees that had been snapped in half at the trunk. Through the cloud of dust and smoke, a figure slowly emerged. As expected of Lady Tsunade. That punch of yours, even I almost got into real trouble. Sasuke walked out of the haze next. Though she looked a little disheveled, aside from a trickle of blood at the corner of her lips, she didn't seem seriously injured at all. Is this a joke? Tsunade's pupils narrowed. Her expression turned to shock. That strike. I used 50% of my strength. Don't underestimate 50%. Backed by monstrous strength, even Susanoo wouldn't have been able to block a full-powered blow from her. 50% was already terrifying. If that had hit a regular shinobi, it would have likely turned them into a cloud of blood on the spot. Yet, Sasuke had taken it so easily. Her eyes shimmered like molten lava, glowing with a violent golden hue. Her entire presence had changed, no longer a human youth, but a dragon towering at the top of the food chain, gazing down upon fragile humanity. 2 years ago, in that tavern. I remember seeing those eyes. Tsunade squinted slightly, a touch of nostalgia surfacing. Back then, you couldn't fully control this power. But I suppose now, 2 years later, you've learned to master it. Yeah. Sasuke's eyes blazed like a scorching sun. Step by step, she approached her, drawing the long sword from her waist. In a quiet voice, she said, Lady Tsunade, please be careful. From here on out, the real battle begins. Bring it on. Tsunade raised her hand with pride, casually curling her finger, but inwardly, her guard rose sharply. Word soul, time, 0. In the next instant, Sasuke's figure blurred and suddenly crossed nearly 100 meters in a flash. Time itself seemed to halt. The forward march of seconds froze. The entire world fell into utter silence. Even the falling leaves drifted downward at an agonizingly slow pace. The girl, like a phantom weaving through time, materialized in front of Tsunade in an instant. Chapter 545, Chapter 479.2, Reunion after 2 years. Clang. The crisp sound of a sword being drawn snapped Tsunade out of her daze. A cold crescent of sword light swept toward her like a deathly moon. The blade's fierce aura alone, even before touching flesh, sent prickling pain across her skin. So fast. Tsunade's pupils narrowed. But she was one of the legendary Sannin. With a sudden stomp, she drove her foot heavily into the ground. Pain heaven kick. Her chakra-infused heel came down like a giant axe, shattering the flat ground beneath her. The resulting shockwave burst forth like a storm, slamming Sasuke backward through the air. Barely gaining a moment to breathe, Tsunade suddenly felt an intense heat rush at her. Fire style, great fireball technique. A massive fireball, several meters in diameter, surged toward her, its scorching heatwave tearing through the battlefield. How is that possible? Tsunade's eyes widened. She had seen it clearly, Sasuke hadn't formed any hand seals. How could she release a jutsu like that? But there was no time to think. Clenching her fist, she slammed it into the earth. Boom. A huge boulder burst from the ground and rose before her, intercepting the fireball midair. The explosion that followed set the entire training field ablaze. Blistering heat radiated outward, filling the air with the acrid stench of smoke and scorched earth. Earth release, earth swamp. Suddenly, the ground beneath Tsunade turned into a swamp, swallowing her ankles. Her whole body began to slowly sink downward. Sasuke seized the opportunity. Her sword, crackling with lightning, sliced through the rocks with a single strike. Fire release, majestic dragon flame technique. No hand seals again. This time, Tsunade was certain she hadn't misseen it. Sasuke hadn't made any hand signs, yet the jutsu was released. A massive fiery dragon roared and soared, charging like the end of the world itself. At the critical moment, Tsunade covered her entire body with medical ninjutsu, bracing herself to withstand the wild blast of dragon flames. Boom. The boiling flames triggered a violent explosion, flattening the nearby ground. The sharp, choking smell mixed with the intense heat, causing the air to warp like an illusion. Tsunade-sama. The golden light in Sasuke's eyes faded. She hastily dropped her sword and rushed toward the smoke. Don't worry, I'm fine. Tsunade waved her hand. Her clothes were tattered and burnt, and a faint glimpse of skin was visible beneath. Just as Jiraiya, perched in the tree, was about to take a closer look, in the blink of an eye, Tsunade had already put her clothes back on. "Tch, meddlesome little girl," Jiraiya said with a hint of regret. "This is..." Tsunade looked at the suddenly reappeared clothes, then recalled Sasuke's earlier scene, no visible hand signs, yet a jutsu was cast. Her brow furrowed tightly. "How exactly did you do that just now?" "The principle is actually simple, Tsunade-sama," Sasuke smiled faintly. She tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear and slowly explained, "After I use time 0, a special barrier space forms around me. Inside this space, time slows down by many folds. I did perform hand seals, but so fast you couldn't see them. Experienced Tsunade quickly understood the principle behind it. No wonder. But, is this incredible speed because of your awakened bloodline? Now you see how powerful this kid really is, Jiraiya, who had just jumped down from the tree, said with a teasing smile. By the way, this kid's time zero ability can slow down time by more than 30 times. That means what we see as 1 second is over 30 seconds in her eyes. Huh. Even Tsunade, who had endured brutal wars, couldn't help but be shocked by Sasuke's ability. So, how is it? Did she pass the test? Jiraiya asked proudly with a smile. Sasuke is probably the greatest achievement of my life. Even Minato Namikaze, at his peak, probably wasn't as gifted as her. She passed, Tsunade said with a carefree smile. Perfect timing. I have a mission I need to assign to you, Sasuke. A mission. Sasuke blinked in surprise, then grew curious. What kind of mission, Lady Tsunade? The Kazekage of the Sand Village, Gaara, was suddenly attacked by the Aurora Order and was captured after being defeated, Tsunade said seriously. Kakashi has already led the first support team and departed for the Sand Village. I want you to follow the second team to reinforce the Sand Village. Got it. Sasuke didn't hesitate at all and agreed immediately. Do you need some rest first? Tsunade asked. After a brief pause, Sasuke shook her head and smiled. No need, Lady Tsunade. I'm not too exhausted. Though Sasuke decided not to rest, the second team led by Might Guy was delayed by half a day. Finally, the next morning, Sasuke, along with Might Guy, Rock Lee, and Tenten, departed as reinforcements to the Sand Village. Youth, roar. Guy charged forward with all his might, completely full of fiery passion. But it was tough for those behind him. Tenten was nearly exhausted every day. Rock Lee was doing okay, but still almost worn out from the constant strain. Sasuke's performance, however, exceeded Guy's expectations. Not only could she keep up perfectly with Guy's speed, she even suggested acting as a scout and heading to the Sand Village ahead of them. They were originally on a mission, and having just returned to the village without rest, they were sent out again. The team's stamina and energy were being drained heavily. In the end, Guy glanced at Tenten, who looked about to collapse, and the heavily panting Rock Lee, and reluctantly agreed to Sasuke's decision. Sasuke sped off alone toward the Sand Village, while the rest stayed behind to rest for half a day. The girl rushed swiftly through the forest, her mind drifting to the time during the Chunin exams when she, together with Naruto, stopped Gaara's rampage. Naruto, I've grown stronger now. What about you? Just as Sasuke's thoughts were filled with Naruto, a figure suddenly appeared ahead, cloaked entirely in a mysterious gray robe. An enemy? Sasuke stopped in her tracks, her right hand resting on the sword hilt at her waist. A wary look appeared in her eyes. Who are you? Are you from the Aurora Order? However, the gray-robed figure said nothing and suddenly vanished from where he stood, reappearing in front of Sasuke as if flickering through the air. 5 slender fingers reached out from the robe, as if trying to grab her. Word soul time 0. Golden light surged in Sasuke's pupils, and time suddenly slowed down by dozens of times. The sword was drawn, its blade gleaming coldly, and with a horizontal slash aimed at the mysterious figure's neck. But just as the freshly drawn sword blade appeared, it was suddenly wrapped tightly by a coiling python, binding Sasuke completely and holding her in place. Chidori. Sasuke was about to use Chidori to break free from the restraint when she saw the other person pull off their hood, revealing a familiar face she had longed to see day and night. Long time no see, Sasuke. 2 years had passed. The boy's blonde hair hung down, and 6 whisker marks on his face gave him a slightly mischievous look. It's you. Naruto. At that moment, Sasuke seemed frozen, staring at the familiar face as memories and longing flooded her mind. It's been 2 years. You've finally grown stronger. Looking at Sasuke, now grown into a young woman, Naruto's expression was indifferent as he softly said, I came because someone asked me to deliver a message. The power of the Aurora Order is far beyond what you can fight against. You should focus more on Iwagakure. There are big changes happening there. After speaking, Naruto quietly turned away. With a wave of his hand, a glowing portal appeared. You must be sequence 6, right? He slightly tilted his head, glancing sideways at Sasuke, and said calmly, it's a pity you took the wrong path. With your talent, you should have been much stronger after 2 years. Instead, you spent your energy just training your chakra. At this rate, you'll never catch up to me. You too. Sasuke was stunned, staring at Naruto's back in the glowing portal. I'm different from you. Naruto stepped through the portal and said coldly, right now, I'm sequence 5, Traveler. Soon, I'll advance to sequence 4 Demigod. Chapter 546, Chapter 480.1, Iwagakure and Inoki. Uzumaki Naruto stepped through the glowing gate and returned to the dark base. A faint teal flame quietly burned, casting shadows in the room. When it saw Naruto come back, a figure with a faint smile said, "So many years without seeing each other, why not catch up a little?" "No need," Naruto replied. He sat on the bed, his eyes half-lidded. "But you, why do you have time to come find me here?" In these past 2 years, Naruto's personality had changed drastically. Perhaps years under Orochimaru's influence made him less talkative and much more mature and steady. The person in the room slowly rose and walked to the teal lamp. It was Orochimaru. He looked like he was admiring a perfect tool he had forged himself, smiling with satisfaction. "Not bad. You've improved quickly. Looks like you'll soon advance to sequence 4. Naruto said nothing, only nodded slightly. No one knew how many hardships he had endured in these 2 years to reach this point. He looked at Orochimaru and asked, "What exactly happened in Iwagakure? Is it really worth your personal attention to investigate?" "A transformation in the shinobi world," Orochimaru said with meaning. "Also, to visit an old friend, see how things have changed in recent years." "And the result?" Naruto frowned. He felt Orochimaru was hiding something. The result? Naturally, it was an unhappy parting. Orochimaru sighed with some regret, a trace of sadness in his eyes. Those who once walked side by side will eventually go their separate ways. Fate can be quite laughable sometimes. Looks like the problem in Iwagakure is serious. Naruto's curiosity grew. "You are a sequence 3 cognizer, after all. Besides the 2 angels of the Aurora Order, who else can stop you?" Yes, 2 years later, Orochimaru had risen to sequence 3 of the White Tower pathway, the cognizer. At least in Naruto's eyes, a sequence 3 cognizer was powerful enough to dominate the shinobi world, except for the 2 angels of the Aurora Order. Of course, that one from Iwagakure is truly an angel. At this, Orochimaru couldn't help but feel a faint discouragement. He prided himself on being a genius, but when it came to the Beyonder pathway, his progress was far from fast. Inoki seemed perfectly suited for the Black Emperor pathway. In just 2 short years, he had leapt from a sequence 5 mentor of disorder to the sequence 2 Duke of Entropy. Moreover, under Inoki's careful governance, Iwagakure had been completely renewed from the inside out over these years. Even the daimyo of the land of Earth had been entirely overshadowed by that old fox. Now, he was effectively an invisible emperor, controlling everything in the land of Earth from the shadows. Lord Adam, what exactly is he planning? This question deeply troubled Orochimaru. Inoki had betrayed the Twilight Hermit Order but faced no punishment. Instead, it was as if Adam had forgotten about him altogether. Though Orochimaru had repeatedly urged to curb Inoki's growth over these 2 years, Adam had rejected every suggestion. It was almost as if Adam was deliberately allowing Inoki to rise. "Right now, your focus shouldn't be on Iwagakure." Orochimaru rubbed his temples and looked toward Uzumaki Naruto calmly. "You should focus on the advancement ritual. After all, you have to seal a demigod alone for it to count. It's no easy feat. What are your thoughts?" "I'm searching for a target." Uzumaki Naruto replied coolly, "Originally, the target was Uchiha Sasuke, but she's too slow at advancing. So, I'm planning to switch to someone else." "Oh." Hearing this, Orochimaru wore a teasing smile. "Is that really the reason? Or are you just too soft-hearted?" "That's none of your business." Naruto snorted coldly, raising his hand to summon the traveler's door. "I'll handle Sasuke's matters myself. No need for your interference." With that, he stepped through the gate and disappeared. "What a useful ability," Orochimaru murmured. Looking at the departing Uzumaki Naruto, Orochimaru sighed with regret. It's a pity. If only this could be turned into an extraordinary item. The ability to travel anywhere at any time was truly enviable. When Sasuke arrived at the hidden sand village, the scene before her shocked her deeply. It looked like a huge crater left behind by a bombing. Countless ruins of buildings piled up everywhere. Even the sand defense barrier had a massive hole blasted through it. It was clear just how brutal the battle that day had been. Sasuke had arrived quickly and, through contact with ninja sent from the Sand Village, happened to meet Kakashi's team acting as the vanguard. "Sasuke, is that you?" Haruno Sakura was surprised. She hadn't expected to see her long-absent teammate here after 2 years. "That's right. It's me, Sakura, Kakashi-sensei." Sasuke looked at the people across from her. A wave of familiarity washed over her, and a bright smile appeared on her face. "Niji, Tenten, long time no see. How did you end up here? What about Lord Jiraiya?" Kakashi looked confused. Why had Sasuke suddenly appeared at the Sand Village? "We returned to Konoha the very afternoon you all left, Jiraiya-sensei and I," Sasuke explained the whole story. I see. So the Hokage sent you to support us. Once he understood, Kakashi stared at Sakura strangely. But what about Guy? Wasn't he supposed to come with you? Mentioning this made Sasuke a little embarrassed. She rubbed the tip of her nose. Actually, I was too fast. Guy-sensei and the others are still resting. I arrived ahead of them. If we want to catch up, let's do it on the way. At that moment, a white-haired old lady suddenly interrupted them. The fifth Kazekage's fate is unknown. We should hurry. Sorry, Lady Chiyo. Kakashi bowed slightly in apology and then turned to Sasuke. Sasuke, you just arrived at the Sand Village. Rest here for 2 days. We still need to track the Aurora Order. Wait, I'll go with you. Sasuke volunteered. This little exhaustion is nothing. Please don't worry about me. At that moment, Kakashi took a fresh look at his student. Though covered in dust, Sasuke looked energetic, showing no signs of fatigue. Looks like you've really improved a lot these past 2 years. Kakashi said with a hint of embarrassment. When he first took over Team 7, it was during the time when White Zetsu was impersonating the third Hokage. He hadn't really taught Sasuke much. Now, seeing Sasuke grow under Jiraiya-sama's guidance, he felt relieved. Chapter 547, Chapter 480.2, Zetsu's Pawn. Sasuke seemed to see through his thoughts. Lowering his voice, he said quietly, Kakashi-sensei, I already know about that matter. So please don't blame yourself too much. Jiraiya-sama told you. Kakashi was slightly surprised, then seemed to understand. I see. So Jiraiya-sama must have acknowledged your strength. The two exchanged a glance and smiled knowingly. All right, then follow me. Without hesitation, Kakashi gathered the team and followed Chiyo's footsteps. Have you found any trace of the Aurora Order? Sasuke asked. Yes, Sasuke, you don't know, but after Gaara was kidnapped, Kankuro immediately chased after them. Sakura quickly filled in the information for Sasuke. Later, Kankuro was quickly defeated, but he tore a piece of cloth from the enemy's body. While they spoke, Kakashi had already summoned his ninja beast. A Kamenu dog appeared. Pakken, lead us to this guy. Don't underestimate Pakken, Sakura whispered close to Sasuke's ear. Pakken is a very powerful ninja dog with an excellent sense of smell. As long as there's any scent, he can track the enemy. Follow me. Pakken sniffed for 2 seconds and quickly darted forward. Keep up. Kakashi's team, along with the Sand Village's senior advisor Chiyo, followed Pakken toward the direction of Land of River. Meanwhile, inside a cave within the borders of the Land of Rivers, Uchiha Itachi sat on a chair, playfully scrutinizing the shadowy humanoid figure before him. Gaara you asked for, we have already captured him. What's the next step, Black Zetsu? Yes, that shadowy humanoid was none other than the long-missing Black Zetsu. After several consecutive failures, he had no choice but to seek out the Aurora Order, planning a deep collaboration. Using the power of the God Tree Fruit as bait, he successfully brought the Aurora Order into the plan. The next step is how to extract the tailed beast. In Black Zetsu's eyes as he looked at Uchiha Itachi, there was a mixture of caution and a trace of fear. Uchiha Itachi was more terrifying than Uchiha Sogetsu, Uchiha Obito, and Uchiha Madara. This guy was unpredictable, and it was obvious he had mental issues. How do we extract the tailed beast? Uchiha Itachi still sat in his chair, inspecting Black Zetsu with great interest. Normally, if you have the Rinnegan, it wouldn't be too troublesome. Black Zetsu said, somewhat troubled, but now, without the Rinnegan, we have to forcibly summon the Outer Path statue, then extract the tailed beast from the Jinchuriki. How do you summon it? Uchiha Itachi asked. Leave that to me. Black Zetsu grinned, no Rinnegan means it's a bit more troublesome, but give me about 10 hours, and I'll have it done. 10 hours. Uchiha Itachi lightly tapped his index finger on the armrest, his eyes flickering. The people from Konoha seem to have found us. Looks like we need to buy some time, don't you think? Black Zetsu bowed respectfully. No problem. Leave the Konoha people to me. Oh. Uchiha Itachi looked at Black Zetsu with a playful gaze. Pawns? I have plenty of those, Black Zetsu said with a smile. As he spoke, another figure appeared. Looking at the newly arrived figure, Black Zetsu's mouth twisted into a chilling, sinister smile. Then it's up to you. Go stop them. Yes. The figure nodded and vanished into the cave. The Konoha group who had just arrived in the Land of Rivers immediately bumped into a man dressed in black. Enemy reinforcements. Kakashi stopped abruptly and stared warily at the mysterious black-clothed man. He raised his caution silently. Be careful. Until we know his abilities, we can't let our guard down. This is the Aurora Order. Seeing the enemy so close, Chiyo could not control her anger and tore open her scroll. Two puppets appeared, radiating fierce energy as they lunged at the black-clothed men. "Leave the job of probing their information to me," Chiyo said. As a former strongest puppeteer, her puppet control was exquisite. Although the puppets looked ordinary, their agility far surpassed that of ordinary ninja. They attacked the black-clothed men from front and back, using puppets to probe enemy abilities. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, and the three tomo of his Sharingan quietly appeared. However, just as the two puppets neared the black-clothed men and were about to swing their weapons, a black mist drifted around him. In the next moment, the puppets suddenly froze in place. Their limbs and joints began to rust severely, emitting harsh mechanical grinding sounds. "That's iron sand." With the help of his Sharingan, Sasuke immediately realized the truth behind the black mist. In the next instant, the mist rapidly solidified into what looked like a pitch-black iron pillar, dragging terrifying pressure as it crashed toward the Konoha squad. Just then, Sasuke stepped forward boldly, her 5 fingers clenched into a fist. Bang! The clash of metal echoed loudly, sending waves of air rushing outward, sweeping across tens of meters around them. Sasuke's punch directly blasted the iron pillar away. The terrifying power stunned even Kakashi and Sakura standing nearby. The strange strength of that young woman Tsunade. Chiyo immediately recognized it. Sasuke was using the enemy's, Tsunade's, chakra-enhanced punch. After blasting the iron pillar away, Sasuke landed again and said in a deep voice, "Be careful. That guy can control iron sand. He's tricky." Iron sand, iron sand. Chiyo's expression grew complicated as she looked at the men in black. On her aged face appeared a trace of disbelief. "In my memory, the only technique that can manipulate iron sand was the magnet release used by the third Kazekage of the Sand Village." The third Kazekage. At these words, everyone was shocked. "Is that you, Lord Third Kazekage?" Chiyo shakily walked toward the men in black, her eyes reddening, still unable to believe it. But the man in black pulled down his hood, revealing a face that Chiyo knew all too well, the third Kazekage of the Sand Village, still looking as young as in his prime. "Long time no see, Chiyo." The third Kazekage looked at the aged Chiyo, a hint of nostalgia flashing in his eyes. "Who would have thought that the desert flower, Chiyo, who once fought me for power, would end up like this? Why are you helping the Aurora Order?" Chiyo's eyes blazed with anger, forcibly suppressing her fury. "Do you know the Aurora Order kidnapped the 5th Kazekage? Is that all you want to say?" The third Kazekage sneered, his eyes full of mockery. "If it's about that, I already knew a long time ago. So, you willingly chose to help the Aurora Order?" Chiyo gritted her teeth, loudly questioning. "You understand nothing, Chiyo." Iron sand swirled fiercely around the third Kazekage's body, murder flashing in his eyes. "The Aurora Order is the hope of the ninja world. For that future, sacrificing a small number of people is worth it." Chapter 548, Chapter 481.1, Kazekage vs. Chiyo. The black-clad figure blocking the path of the Konoha group was none other than the long-deceased third Kazekage. Looking at the cracks on his face, Kakashi's pupils suddenly shrank sharply. It seemed he realized something and said in shock, "You're a reanimated corpse brought back by the Impure World reincarnation." Only those reanimated through the Impure World reincarnation technique would have bodies marked with cracks like these. Impure World reincarnation. Chiyo obviously did not understand this forbidden jutsu. It's a ninjutsu that forcibly summons the souls of the dead from the Pure Land and reincarnates them into living human sacrifices, Kakashi explained with a heavy heart. Those summoned from the Pure Land possess immortal bodies and nearly infinite chakra. It's a very troublesome forbidden technique. Chiyo was silent for a few seconds, then looked meaningfully at Kakashi. "If my guess is correct, this forbidden jutsu should have been developed by the second Hokage, right?" Obviously, it was a well-known fact in the ninja world that the second Hokage researched forbidden techniques. Kakashi nodded awkwardly. Yes, it was indeed a forbidden jutsu studied by the second Hokage. But I don't understand how the Aurora Order could have mastered the Impure World reincarnation. Normally, only a few people could use this jutsu, besides the founder, the second Hokage, only Orochimaru was known to have mastered it. Could it be that Orochimaru joined the Aurora Order? Kakashi's heart sank. If that were true, then Konoha was in serious danger. "White-haired boy, don't overthink it," Chiyo suddenly interrupted everyone's thoughts. The old woman pulled 2 scrolls from her sleeve, her eyelids drooping slightly. "Their goal is very clear, to use the third Kazekage to hold us back. This means we are already close to the Aurora Order's main base. Just you alone." Kakashi frowned as he looked at Chiyo. After all, the opponent was the famed third Kazekage, and his magnet release was especially effective against puppets. This had been clear from their recent fight. Chiyo was a puppeteer, but she was old now. Her stamina and chakra had severely declined and were nowhere near her prime. Facing the third Kazekage at his peak alone, her chances of winning were almost zero. No way. We can't leave you behind alone. Kakashi firmly rejected her proposal. If Chiyo stayed behind alone to hold off the third Kazekage, and something went wrong, Konoha would be in a difficult diplomatic position with the Sand Village. Do you think I will lose? Chiyo glared at Kakashi angrily. I am the strongest puppeteer, and I know the third Kazekage very well. Although I can't defeat him, holding him off for a while won't be a problem, and nothing will go wrong. Don't worry, son of White Fang. With that, ignoring Kakashi's objections, Chiyo summoned her signature technique. Chikamatsu 10 puppets. As smoke billowed from the scroll, 10 puppets in white robes appeared beside them. Wow, amazing. Sakura was instantly shocked. In her memory, a puppeteer's strength was usually proportional to the number of puppets they could control. Even a powerful puppeteer like Kankuro could only manipulate up to 3 puppets. But the seemingly aged Chiyo was controlling a full 10. The 10 puppets made by the puppetry ancestor Manzaemon Chikamatsu, the third Kazekage said with a nostalgic expression as he watched Chiyo summon the Chikamatsu 10 puppets. I never thought I would see them again. It's truly an honor. I never expected that one day the Chikamatsu 10 puppets would be used against our former Kazekage. Chiyo's eyes showed a trace of sadness, but it quickly turned into determination. Her fingers moved swiftly, and thin chakra threads controlled the 10 puppets as they lunged toward the third Kazekage. Chiyo, you should know very well that my magnet release jutsu is the perfect counter to puppeteers. Black mist surged around the third Kazekage like crashing waves, rolling toward the 10 puppets. Now. But Chiyo seemed to see an opportunity and hooked 3 fingers. The Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha puppets instantly changed tactics and formed a triangular formation, immediately triggering a fierce tornado. Puppetry technique, 3 jewels suction crushing. The sealing technique cast by the 3 puppets created a powerful suction within their formation. Whoosh! A vast black mist of iron sand surged irresistibly, drawn toward the center of the 3 puppets. At the same time, 2 puppets took advantage of the moment and flanked from behind. Blades shot out from their arms, slashing directly toward the third Kazekage's neck, clearly aiming for a killing blow. Trying to seal me with this magnetic release. The third Kazekage shifted his foot lightly, sliding sideways several meters to avoid the puppet's blade. A mocking smile curled on his lips. Too bad. My iron sand is inexhaustible, but your seal has its limits. Hurry, run. Chiyo glared fiercely at Kakashi and snarled, don't waste the chance I fought for. You must rescue that child. You must save Gaara. Looking at the stubborn yet resolute Chiyo, Kakashi gritted his teeth and ordered, everyone, follow me, rush through. Want to run? Dream on. The third Kazekage's face darkened with rage as he saw the Konoha group trying to escape. Stay here, all of you. Iron sand, Shigure. In an instant, the massive iron sand spread like a dark cloud covering the sky, transforming into countless fine needles shooting toward the Konoha group. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The iron sand needles rained down like a storm, carrying incredible piercing power. The jungle ahead was instantly riddled like a sieve by the dense needles. Just as the Konoha group was about to be stopped, 2 puppets shot out. Puppet technique, machine light shield. The 2 puppets instantly positioned themselves before the group, converting chakra into huge shields. Rumble, rumble. The azure chakra shields violently trembled under the bombardment of iron sand needles. Still, the 2 puppets bore the relentless storm, forcefully pushing the Konoha group forward, though iron sand began to invade their joints as a cost. Magnetic release, iron sand trilateral pyramid. The third Kazekage struck again, condensing a massive amount of iron sand into a spinning, whistling cone flying at the Konoha group with terrifying speed. As long as I'm here, forget it. With a sudden pull, the 3 puppets shot forward. The clash of blades and iron sand exploded in midair, dazzling sparks flying. The fierce sound of metal ringing out as the pyramid was repelled, and the 3 puppets were blasted backward. In just a few seconds, every attempt by the third Kazekage to block them was perfectly stopped by Chiyo. Just to help the people of Konoha escape, the price paid was the loss of 2 puppets from the Chikamatsu 10. Chiyo. Watching the people of Konoha disappear into the distance, the third Kazekage knew he couldn't catch up. His face darkened as he looked at Chiyo, his eyes filled with furious killing intent. Originally, I didn't want to kill you, but this is all your own doing. Stop saying those sour jokes. Chiyo sneered coldly and looked at the third Kazekage. From the moment you betrayed the hidden sand village, you became my enemy. This sentence struck like a heavy hammer on the third Kazekage's heart, leaving him momentarily silent. No, you're wrong, Chiyo. The third Kazekage took a deep breath, a complicated expression flashing in his eyes before turning into determination. The Aurora Order is the future of the ninja world. What I'm doing is to save the ninja world, to save the hidden sand village. Chapter 549, Chapter 481.2, Sasori. Hearing this, Chiyo almost couldn't hold back cursing. Open your eyes and look. Does what the Aurora Order does look like saving the ninja world? Nearly destroying the hidden sand village, kidnapping the 5th Kazekage, attacking Konoha, assassinating the 4th Hokage, and repeatedly causing bloody massacres. The old woman finally lost control and roared angrily. Do you call such an organization saving? Looking at the excited Chiyo, the 3rd Kazekage's expression remained unchanged, and he said calmly, all of this is just necessary sacrifice. Chiyo showed a disappointed look and closed her eyes sorrowfully. You are no longer the 3rd Kazekage who would give everything for the village. The current you is no different from the demons of the Aurora Order. No matter how fancy the words, they cannot cover up your crimes. Forget it. I never expected to convince you, stubborn old lady. The 3rd Kazekage's eyes turned cold. A large amount of iron sand surged from his body, quickly forming huge cylinders and cones. Magnet release, iron sand triangular prism, magnet release, iron sand cylinder. In the next moment, the giant cylinder and prism flew like cannonballs toward Chiyo. Boom. The huge objects tore through the air, dragging roaring gusts behind them, an intimidating sight. Chiyo knew the 3rd Kazekage very well, so the moment she saw the attack, she immediately pulled back. She commanded the Chikamatsu 10 puppets to block the path ahead. It's useless. Even puppets made by Bunzaman can't stop my magnet release. The 3rd Kazekage swung his palm sideways. His fingers suddenly closed together. Magnet release, iron sand world law. The cylinder and prism collided in midair, releasing a deafening roar. Amid the sparks from the collision, the two seemed to merge like rapidly growing plants. They unleashed countless sharp iron sand spikes. The spikes intertwined like a dense net, directly trapping the fleeing Chiyo within. I have no interest in playing around with you anymore, Chiyo. The 3rd Kazekage snorted coldly. His right hand clenched into a fist tightly as he injected his massive chakra into the iron sand. With this strike, I will end your life. The dense iron sand spikes suddenly began to multiply again. Each huge spike sprouted more spikes, crowding the already limited space Chiyo had to move, like a thicket of sharp thorns. Damn it. The growth speed is too fast. Although Chiyo controlled the 10 puppets, swiftly cutting down the multiplying iron sand spikes, the regeneration was too rapid. The moment a spike was severed, many more would appear in the blink of an eye. In just a few moments, all 5 Kanmatsu puppets were pierced through by the multiplying iron sand, like a bloody punishment, pinned deep in the thorny iron sand forest. One puppet after another was pierced and broken. The spreading iron sand thorns crept closer. Chiyo's pupils shrank, and a flashback flickered through her mind. Could it be that I'm going to die here? A bitter smile appeared on Chiyo's face. If she were younger, she might still have the strength to escape. But she was too old now. Her stamina and power were far weaker than in her youth, and her reaction speed lagged behind, which caused her to be completely trapped by the iron sand thorns, losing her last chance to break free. Yet, at this moment, a seemingly bulky figure charged like an indestructible tank, breaking through the iron sand thorns. It was a puppet, its hardness astonishing. Especially the sharp spike at its tail, which swept and sliced through the iron sand spikes with ease. In Chiyo's shocked gaze, the puppet broke through the iron sand blockade, held her in its arms, and charged straight out. Is there someone else? The 3rd Kazekage's brow furrowed with cruel intent. The iron sand thorns floating around shattered and collapsed, then compressed densely, forming spear-like shapes that thundered through the sky. Their target was clearly the mysterious puppet that had just rescued Chiyo. Boom. The high-density compressed sand iron spears unleashed devastating power, tearing through the air with a sharp sonic boom. Layer upon layer of fierce wind wrapped around them, friction heating the air, like dozens of blazing meteors speeding forward, cutting off the puppet's escape route. But just as the puppet was about to be crushed, a figure suddenly burst out from within it, taking Chiyo and disappearing from the spot. Boom. Dozens of scorching sand iron spears slammed into the ground, causing it to collapse directly beneath them. The 3rd Kazekage's eyelids twitched as he glanced sideways. You're not from the sand village, are you? The figure emerging from the puppet was a red-haired boy who looked quite young, even somewhat childish in appearance. His cold, indifferent gaze contrasted with his handsome features. Is it really you? Chiyo stared at the boy in front of her, eyes wide and trembling uncontrollably. Is it really you? Sasori. Old woman, you're too old to show off. The red-haired boy cast a cold glance at Chiyo, his tone unfriendly. Do you know that if it weren't for me just now, you would already be dead? My dear grandson, Sasori, you're a member of Akatsuki. Chiyo's lips quivered and her eyes reddened. But when she saw the black cloak with red clouds on Sasori's body, shock flashed across her face. Why? Why did you join Akatsuki? The Sand Village had lost large tracts of land to the Akatsuki, and clashes were constant. The main reason for the village's disadvantage was this very organization. No need for you to worry. Sasori said coldly, then turned his gaze to the third Kazekage, his eyes growing even colder. Has the former third Kazekage really fallen to become a lackey of the Aurora Order? My grandson, Sasori, why did you leave the Sand Village? Chiyo reached out tremblingly, trying to touch the red-haired boy's cheek. But Sasori took 2 steps back, speaking coldly, don't think too much, old lady. I just happened to pass by, not here specially to see you. Are you done talking? The third Kazekage grew impatient. He manipulated the iron sand into a giant cylinder and pressed down with immense force. Someone already dead shouldn't come out to cause trouble again. Sasori glanced sideways, then raised her hand and threw out a scroll. With a chilling tone, she said, perfect timing. I'm just missing a powerful puppet. Boring, puppetry again. The third Kazekage's eyes narrowed slightly, showing no concern, even a hint of mockery. I've already said, before my magnet release, all puppetry means nothing. Oh really? Sasori smiled faintly, then calmly said, then let's wait and see, third Kazekage-sama. The scroll unfolded in midair, and puppets poured out like a heavy rain, one after another. Soon they filled the entire sky, their numbers vast and overwhelming, like dark clouds blotting out the sun, stretching endlessly. The third Kazekage's expression changed from disdain to shock, his pupils shrinking. Everyone knows that a puppeteer's strength depends on how many puppets they can control. Chiyo was once the strongest puppeteer in the Sand Village, but even she was limited to 10 puppets. Yet the red-haired boy before him controlled such an absurd number. Red secret technique, 100 puppet performance. The smile on Sasori's face grew more arrogant as she laughed loudly. Third Kazekage-sama, let me see just how powerful your magnet release really is. Chapter 550, Chapter 482.1, Hiden. In the dense forest, the wind howled as the Konoha team moved swiftly through the trees. Kakashi-sensei, are we really going to leave Granny Chiyo behind like this? Halfway through, Sakura Haruno asked worriedly, frequently glancing back as if to check on the battle. Chiyo had confronted the third Kazekage alone, and since she was being restrained, it was hard not to worry. Don't think too much, Sakura, Kakashi said in a low voice, his eyes locked straight ahead. If we stop here, it would be a waste of the opportunity Chiyo created for us. Wait, stop. Suddenly, at the rear of the group, Hyuga Niji's veins bulged around his eyes as if he sensed something. At the same time, in the middle of the team, Sasuke's gaze shifted toward a shadow-covered side. She immediately responded to Niji's call, drawing her sword and leaping forward, swinging it horizontally like a flash of lightning. Clang! The sparks from the clashing blades burst out among the trees. A strange figure, appearing from nowhere, was forced out by Sasuke's strike. Kakashi threw a shuriken at the same time and formed hand signs with both hands. Shuriken, shadow clone technique. The flying shuriken suddenly split into dozens midair, striking like a storm toward the retreating strange figure. With a gust of wind, the odd figure wielded a dramatically shaped scythe, knocking all the shuriken away. Then, it landed steadily on a tree trunk across from them, scanning them up and down. Hatake Kakashi, Uchiha Sasuke, Hyuga Niji. Looks like I'm lucky after all. Again. Sakura couldn't help but shout. Looks like it's another enemy sent by the Aurora Order to block us. Tenten said from the side. The figure was wrapped in a similar black robe, radiating a sinister aura. Its shadow twisted like a living creature, swallowing all nearby light. 1, 2, 3, 4, missing one. The man in the black robe pulled back his hood, revealing an arrogant face. He licked his lips with excitement. Whatever. You 5 are all my prey. Looking at the opponent's strange weapon, a blood-red triple-section scythe, Kakashi's eyes flickered as he warned his team. Be careful. This guy's weapon is unusual, probably favors taijutsu. That scythe gives me a bad feeling. Avoid getting hit. The scythe's design was neither light nor flexible. Hyuga Niji pondered, maybe it has a special purpose. Before we officially fight, let me introduce myself. The men grinned widely. I'm a member of the Aurora Order, codename Z. But you can call me Lord Hiden. The shadowy canopy of dense leaves twisted like a living thing and suddenly dragged Hiden into it. Watch out for the shadows around you. Kakashi, having experienced the methods of the Aurora Order, immediately shouted to warn the nearby team members. But above them, the thick forest canopy cast deep shadows over everyone, making it impossible to stay alert. At that moment, Hiden appeared like a ghost behind Sakura and Tenten. His enormous scythe swung wildly. Let's start with you two trash, he sneered. The cold, sharp scythe was about to strike their skin when Niji Hyuga stepped forward with a swift lunge and slammed his palm out. 8 trigrams palm. Using gentle fist techniques, Niji released an ultra-fast palm strike that compressed the air like a cannonball, smashing directly against Haiden's scythe. Clang! The huge scythe shifted several inches off course. Taking advantage of the moment, Sasuke's sword blade slashed like a swimming dragon, skillfully aiming at Haiden's wrist. Shing! The blade pierced the wrist, drawing a handful of fresh blood. With a twist of her wrist, Sasuke sliced upward, severing Haiden's hand. "TCH, that hurts, you bastard." Haiden sneered viciously. He spun a full 180 degrees and kicked the severed hand toward the group. Seeing the flying severed hand, Kakashi quickly came up with a bad idea. Wind release, great breakthrough. Suddenly, a fierce windstorm exploded between Haiden and the others. The strong whirlwind swept Sakura and Tenten away. Sasuke and Niji sensed the danger early and retreated rapidly. Boom. The severed hand transformed into a horrifying blood and flesh storm. This gruesome storm corroded all the trees and organic matter within several meters. Seeing the devastation shocked everyone deeply. In an instant, Haiden burst out from the blood and flesh storm, laughing madly with a savage face. His bizarre three-section scythe swung violently, the sharp gusts cutting through the air with piercing shrieks. Word soul, time 0. Sasuke's pupils burned like molten gold, and a temporal domain spread around her. The next moment, Haiden's movements slowed down dozens of times. She slightly lowered her center of gravity, sheathed her sword, and took a stance ready to draw the blade again. With each breath, power pulsed rhythmically, from her calves up to her spine, as if an endless stream of energy converged into a single point. Clang! As the blade left the scabbard, it seemed like 1,000 strikes were made in an instant. From everyone else's view, Haiden lunged toward Sasuke, only to be immediately engulfed by a brilliant flash of sword light, like a cascading waterfall of stars from the Milky Way. The fierce sword aura roared wildly, mixing with thunderous rumbling. The lightning-infused blade effortlessly sliced through Haiden's body, shredding him into pieces in less than a single breath. One moment, Haiden was still whole, the next, he was torn into chunks of flesh. Kakashi's face showed shock, he hadn't even been able to clearly see how many strikes Sasuke had made in that instant. Phew! Sasuke held her sword-drawing stance, but the breath she exhaled carried the crackle of thunder and burning heat. This scene stunned Sakura, Tenten, and Niji. It had only been 2 years since they last met, but Sasuke seemed like a completely different person. Though everyone knew she had been training with Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin, this was just unbelievable. Yet after defeating Haiden, Sasuke showed no joy. Her golden eyes, burning bright, slowly rotated the 3 crimson tomo. Chakra is still present, could it be? Boom. In an instant, a crimson storm engulfed the area within dozens of meters. The overwhelming blood rain, driven by the storm's fury, ruthlessly corroded and melted everything around. If not for Sasuke's swift teleportation technique, anyone caught in the storm would suffer a terrible fate. Ah, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts so much. The scattered chunks of flesh surprisingly reassembled once more, reforming into Haiden's grotesque figure. He growled through a twisted grin, "You bastard, this really hurts like hell." Lying, right? Sakura and Tenten stared in horror at the resurrected Haiden. Just as I suspected, Kakashi sighed deeply, his gaze fixed on the revived Haiden. He has the same immortal body as Mr. A. Chapter 551, Chapter 482.2, Fourth Great Ninja War. We can't afford to get stuck here. At that moment, Niji stepped forward and lowered his voice. Jonin Kakashi, I suggest splitting into 2 groups here. Tenten, Sakura, and I will hold him off. You and Sasuke keep moving forward to find the Aurora Order's base and the Kazekage. No, too dangerous. Kakashi rejected the idea immediately. He turned to Haiden and said in a serious tone, I'll stay here. You all keep going. But Niji started to argue. Kakashi cut him off coldly. I'm the team leader. Follow my orders. Niji, you lead the team forward from here. Ah. What the hell is that white-haired bastard talking about? Haiden heard the voice. Holding his exaggerated scythe, he sneered, with me here, not a single one of you is getting away. Clang. With a clear ringing sound, Kakashi drew his short blade, his eyes sharp and fierce. I'll be your opponent. That's enough. I'll tear your mouth apart first. Haiden's temper flared. His body instantly melted into the shadows, planning to use his old trick again. But just as he emerged from the shadows, Kakashi seemed to have anticipated it. He gripped his blade's hilt, stepped forward, and swung upward. The blade's edge traced a perfect line along Haiden's right ribs, across to his left shoulder, a faint thread of light flashing through the air. SHHHHK. The next moment, Haiden, who had just been so arrogant, was suddenly cut in 2 by a single slash. Blood sprayed out like a fountain, and the arrogance frozen on Haiden's face turned into a ridiculous clownish expression. That's the White Fang sword technique, the secret art passed down in the Hitaki clan. Hyuga Niji's pupils shrank sharply, a hint of shock showing on his face. As rumored, Kakashi-sensei has truly surpassed his father White Fang, especially with his swordsmanship. To prevent any explosion, Kakashi withdrew immediately after the slash. Blood dripped from the blade like raindrops falling. The inherited White Fang short sword, after being reforged and polished, was as smooth as a mirror and could cut through iron like mud. You say your codename in the Aurora Order is Z, right? Kakashi's eyes grew cold and sharp. Holding the White Fang short sword, he said in a cold voice, what a coincidence. Let me see who is stronger, you or Mr. A. You bastard. How dare you cut me in half? Haydn was furious now. His body recovered again, and his eyes filled with fierce bloodshot veins. I will kill you. I'll cut your head off. Despite Haydn's provocation, Kakashi remained calm. He glanced sideways at Hyuga Niji. Go quickly. Leave this guy to me. Kakashi-sensei, Haruno Sakura said anxiously, clenching her fists. Maybe I should stay behind. No. You're a medical ninja. You have to go with them. Kakashi's voice was stern as he refused. Then his expression softened a little. Don't worry. I know this guy's abilities very well. And don't forget, I'm Hitaki Kakashi. After a half-second pause, Hyuga Niji decisively turned to the others. Let's go. I'm the team leader now. In a cave in the land of rivers, Uchiha Itachi sneered as he looked at the frustrated Black Zetsu. Looks like the people you sent out are useless. Black Zetsu was embarrassed. He had thought the third Kazekage could at least slow down the Leaf Ninja team. But in the end, the third Kazekage only managed to hold back one person. Holy Sun, this was an accident. Black Zetsu still wanted to defend himself. It's all that damn Akatsuki, interfering in our business. Akatsuki, huh? Uchiha Itachi smiled meaningfully and said, what Akatsuki? Behind the scenes, it should be those guys causing trouble. You mean, Black Zetsu was about to say the name, but found he couldn't make a sound. Don't say it. Itachi pressed his index finger to his lips, signaling silence. Under no circumstances should you mention that organization's name anywhere, understand? Realizing this, Black Zetsu broke out in cold sweat, nodding in fear. He almost forgot that organization's name was taboo. Whoever spoke it would be detected immediately. Pardon me for speaking frankly, Holy Sun, even Haydn was stopped by the other side, Black Zetsu said worriedly. Is it possible to get help from others? No. Itachi stood up calmly, but beneath his calm face hid a terrifying madness. In his spinning Sharingan eyes, Black Zetsu was reflected, and a grim smile curled at the corner of Itachi's lips. Black Zetsu, as a partner, you need to at least be useful. Otherwise, I don't think this cooperation should continue. What do you say? Caught in Itachi's gaze, Black Zetsu felt a chill through his body, like death tightening around his throat. Then, goodbye. Itachi turned away, waved his hand, and said, good luck, Mr. Black Zetsu. As his voice fell, Itachi cut off the communication and vanished instantly into the cave. Only then did Black Zetsu break free from his fear, his pupils narrowing to tiny dots, trembling slightly. He knew very well Itachi wasn't joking. If he truly became useless, Itachi would kill him without hesitation. Konoha. 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 Black Zetsu gritted his teeth, furious as his life was threatened. You're the ones forcing me into this. There's no choice now, only one path left. Pushed to the brink, Black Zetsu had to act ahead of schedule. Using the ring device with a sinister glint, his figure instantly appeared thousands of miles away, inside a secret chamber in Iwagakure. Anoki, we have to move up our plan. Suppressing his fear, Black Zetsu spoke in a low voice, the people of Konoha are closing in. I need your help to hold them back. Black Zetsu, this wasn't part of our agreement. In the darkness, Anoki floated midair, his eyes cold and ruthless. Besides, I have no reason to help you. What's the point of risking exposure to stall Konoha? Give me one good reason. Without me, your entire plan will fail, Anoki. Unfazed by the threat, Black Zetsu's voice turned icy. Right now, I need your support to delay Konoha's forces. After a brief silence, Anoki sneered, fine. As you wish. Let the Fourth Great Ninja War begin. Chapter 552, Chapter 483.1, Anoki and Iwagakure. Iwagakure Village. After ending the call, Anoki gave a cold smile, a terrifying killing intent hidden deep in his eyes. Just now, Black Zetsu's attitude had irritated him greatly. That commanding manner, as if he were a superior speaking to an inferior. Especially his gaze, it made Anoki feel as if he had returned to the days of being ruled by Adam, forced to bow his head in humiliating submission. In Anoki's palm, 2 iron beads spun silently. Click. In the next moment, under Inoki's stern gaze, his fingers suddenly clenched tightly. The two smooth iron balls, forged from the hardest iron ore, were crushed directly by his grip, powder slowly spilling through his fingers. The crushed fragments fell as Inoki floated up in midair, slowly leaving the secret chamber behind. Inside the Tsuchikige's office building, Akatsuchi and Kitsuchi were discussing how to carry out government affairs when suddenly, they noticed another person sitting in a chair. Kitsuchi looked carefully and quickly bowed respectfully. "Father, you're here. Lord Inoki, you finally came out." Seeing Inoki, Akatsuchi's face lit up with surprise before complaining, "You don't know how exhausting it's been. Just confirming the new laws nearly wore me and brother Kitsuchi out." Recently, Iwagakure had fully implemented new laws, and even the village's architectural style was being rebuilt from scratch. To ensure Inoki's will was carried out, Kitsuchi, Kurotuchi, and the Umbu had to put in tremendous effort before the reforms were barely pushed through. In truth, Inoki had rarely made public appearances in the past 2 years. Most village affairs were handled by Kitsuchi and Kurotuchi, while Inoki remained mostly behind the scenes. The rarely seen Inoki had suddenly appeared in the Tsuchikige's office. With sharp political instincts, Kurotuchi almost immediately guessed that the master was preparing to take big action. "Thank you for your hard work, Kitsuchi and Kurotuchi." Inoki spoke slowly, offering some comforting words to the two before his voice suddenly dropped. "The time I mentioned to you has come. Lord, are we really going to do this?" Akatsuchi's pupils narrowed slightly upon hearing this. He clearly understood what the time Inoki referred to meant. "I have been preparing for this day for a very long time." Inoki sat down in the chair. Though small in stature, his deep and powerful aura made the two feel as if they were facing a towering mountain. Akatsuchi remained silent, carefully recalling the many changes that had taken place in Iwagakure over the past 2 years. All these changes were clearly in preparation for the impending war. From the military to the ninja academy's education, and even the village's industrial development, technological level, architectural style, and laws, sweeping reforms had been made in multiple areas. Moreover, with the full support of the daimyo of the Land of Earth, Iwagakure's strength had advanced by leaps and bounds. Even more importantly, Lord Inoki personally selected several people and taught them the Beyonder pathway. After combining this with the ninja system, it unleashed astonishing power. "I understand, Lord Inoki." In formal situations, Akatsuchi knew to address him by his title as a sign of respect. "Father, didn't you say?" Kitsuchi looked somewhat simple-minded. After hesitating for a few seconds, he spoke, "Those people probably won't just stand by, right?" Those people naturally referred to the Twilight Hermits. Kitsuchi did not know the name Twilight Hermits, but Inoki had subtly hinted at this in his words. Because of this, Kitsuchi was worried whether rushing ahead like this might draw the Twilight Hermits' counterattack. Don't worry about those people." Inoki sneered coldly, disdainfully saying, "Those people are too busy dealing with their own problems, still trying to find their leader. How could they care about us?" In fact, Inoki had been inexplicably kicked out of the Twilight Hermits 2 years ago. Later, he had tried contacting Orochimaru several times but was told that everyone believed he had leaked the internal secrets of the Twilight Hermits, so they voted to expel him. Inoki wasn't too shocked by this result, since it was indeed him who had leaked some information to White Zetsu. No one expected to be exposed so quickly. At first, Inoki was constantly on edge, fearing that once Adam awakened, he would come to punish him, the traitor. But as time went by, Inoki gradually calmed down. The reason was simple. If Adam really did awaken and return, the first thing he would do was eliminate Inoki, the traitor, and the traitor White Zetsu hiding within the Aurora Order. Yet 2 whole years had passed. 2 years. White Zetsu in the Aurora Order was still living comfortably, and Inoki showed no signs of being purged. On the contrary, the Twilight Hermit Society had almost vanished in these 2 years, completely losing the power it once wielded from behind the scenes. This only made Inoki more certain that Adam would never return. If he's not coming back, then why shouldn't I take his place? That thought suddenly sprang up in Inoki's mind. And like a seed taking root, it grew uncontrollably until he finally made up his mind. He, Inoki, would surpass Adam and become the true god of Sequence Zero. Deep within Inoki's pupils, a terrifying ambition brewed. His index finger tapped lightly on the table as he said, "Since the decision is made, there's no need to hide it. Tell Deidara to stop those coming from Konoha for me. Lord Tsuchikage." Akatsuchi looked at the unfamiliar Inoki hesitantly, as if he wanted to speak but held back. Though Konoha had declined, it didn't mean Iwagakure should openly break ties. If they did, they might soon face attacks from the other 3 great ninja villages. Although Iwagakure had grown stronger over the past 2 years, Akatsuchi felt the risk was too great to face the combined might of the 4 great villages alone. "Do you have something to say, Akatsuchi?" Inoki's cold gaze swept over the uneasy Akatsuchi beside him. "No, nothing, Lord Tsuchikage." Biting his lip, Akatsuchi swallowed the words he wanted to say. Although he was Tsuchiki's disciple, at heart he was a ninja. Since he was a ninja, he had to follow orders and do what he was supposed to do. Inoki held the final decision-making power, and all they needed to do was obey his commands. Good, it's decided then. Inoki domineeringly finalized the plan and then looked at Katsuchi. Tell Kuratsuchi to support Daidara. That kid is mischievous, if he screws up, I won't forgive them. Yes, father. Katsuchi and Akatsuchi exchanged a glance, both seeing the helplessness in each other's eyes. Once the war starts, it won't be so easy to end it later. Chapter 553, Chapter 483.2, Tobirama. Inoki's eyes grew cold as memories of his last meeting with Orochimaru days ago surfaced in his mind. Orochimaru had advised him to stop while he still could, but now, how could he possibly turn back? Orochimaru, I will prove to you that I am right. Kakashi had held off Haiden, allowing the Leaf forces to keep moving forward. Luckily, thanks to Pakin's keen sense of smell, they were able to proceed without obstruction and track straight to a huge rocky cave entrance. The cave was blocked by a massive boulder, sealed with a talisman. Black Zetsu, having noticed the arriving Leaf forces outside, sneered coldly. Humph, just as you wished, you've come right on time. Byakugan. Hyuga Niji's veins bulged around his eyes as his vision instantly shifted to black and white. He saw through the cave and the situation inside. There are 3 people inside. Gaara is lying on the ground. He looks seriously wounded, but nothing seems abnormal. That doesn't make sense. According to Granny Chiyo, they deliberately kidnapped Gaara. Isn't it to extract the tailed beast from his Jinchuriki body? Tenten asked, puzzled. If that's the case, why haven't they done it yet? Everyone understood what she meant. Though it wasn't pleasant to say aloud, the fact remained. Perhaps something delayed it, Sasuke said, his eyes flickering as he guessed. That's probably right. But we can't lower our guard. Niji nodded at Sasuke and then looked at everyone. Our mission is to rescue Gaara as soon as possible. Whatever happens inside is none of our concern. Then, leave it to me. Sasuke confidently stretched her body. As her 5 slender fingers clenched, a terrifying power roared out. Bang. Air rushed wildly through the gaps between her fingers, as if invisible shockwaves exploded around her. Are you sure you can do this? Hyuga Niji frowned slightly, showing some doubt. Don't worry, Niji. At that moment, Haruno Sakura stepped forward, patting Niji's shoulder with a smile. You might not know, but Sasuke trained under Lady Tsunade for a while. Upon hearing this, Niji and Tenten froze for half a second, then both suddenly looked enlightened. No wonder Sasuke was so confident. Then it's in your hands, Sasuke. Niji and the others stepped back a few paces, making space for Sasuke. Looking at the enormous rock nearly 10 meters tall ahead, Sasuke took a step back, adjusted her breathing, and her pupils glowed with a fierce golden light. Her whole aura shifted dramatically, stacking layer upon layer like a volcano ready to erupt. Power rose steadily along her legs to her heart, which throbbed with a strong, powerful beat. Blood surged into her limbs, and Sasuke took a thunderous step forward. Bang. Suddenly, the pool of water surrounding the girl seemed to be struck, rising in visible, roaring waves. In an instant, Sasuke leapt several dozen meters, trailing layers of energy waves behind her. Her clenched fingers gathered power and then exploded with terrifying force, striking the rock heavily. Boom. The seemingly delicate fist struck the rock with the force of tens of thousands of tons. Amid the deafening roar, something unexpected happened. The rock did not shatter from the blow. Instead, from the point of impact, ripples spread outwards like waves on water, gradually fading away completely. A barrier. Sasuke sensed something wrong the moment she hit the rock. The feeling was as if hitting a sponge that absorbed all her power. Looking again at the ceiling character on the rock, she pondered briefly, then turned to Hyuga Niji and said, if I'm right, this is a barrier. There should be others nearby with similar ceiling marks. Niji, could you help check? Without wasting words, Niji immediately activated his Byakugan. As expected, after his careful search, he really found several spots nearby, each also marked with talisman papers. Found them, just like you said. Niji furrowed his brows and said in a low voice, I think I heard other jonin in the village mention that these kinds of ceiling tags for barriers need to be removed at the same time. But counting the ceiling tags on the rock, there were 5 in total, and yet there were only 4 of them. Don't worry, I have a way. Sasuke smiled slightly and formed hand seals to summon a shadow clone. A shadow clone. Niji shook his head with a sigh after seeing it. For this kind of barrier sealing technique, a simple shadow clone won't work. The caster already anticipated this. But Sasuke took a wooden tag from his pocket and inserted it directly into the shadow clone's body. This should do it. Everyone was left baffled by her action, staring at Sasuke with puzzled expressions. You can think of it as a secret technique, Sasuke admitted, unsure how else to explain. Right now, this shadow clone has about a third of my strength, enough to remove the ceiling tags. So you mean, you're going to stay here alone? Neji couldn't help but worry. The situation inside the cave was unclear, and it was too risky to leave Sasuke alone. Don't worry, I'm pretty strong. Sasuke tucked the hair slipping from her temple behind her ear and smiled gently. These past 2 years, following Lord Jiraiya wasn't time wasted. Seeing her so confident, Neji hesitated for half a second, then reluctantly nodded. All right, I trust you. After we remove the ceiling tags, we'll rush back to support you as fast as possible. You just need to hold them off and be very careful. Okay, I'll be careful and wait for you to come back, Sasuke nodded. After receiving an accurate answer, Hyuga Neji said to Tenten and Sakura, let's hurry up and get going. Inside the cave, White Zetsu turned to another person and said, it's time. Let's give them a little shock. As soon as the words fell, the rocks blocking the cave suddenly collapsed with a thunderous crash. Sasuke had already broken through. At first glance, she saw Gaara lying on the ground, seriously injured. But suddenly, a figure blocked the way ahead. Silver hair, red eyes, wearing a face-protecting forehead guard, dressed in layered blue armor with white feathers on the shoulders, he looked exceptionally heroic. Looking at that figure, Sasuke suddenly froze in place, her pupils shrinking. The second Hokage, Lord. Chapter 554, Chapter 484.1, 2 Hokages. Sasuke burst into the cave, but the person blocking her way immediately stunned her into stillness. She even suspected she had been caught in an illusion, but the normal flow of chakra within her body quickly confirmed one thing, she was not under any genjutsu. Yet, the man standing before her, dressed in layered blue Sengoku period armor with a white fur collar, silver hair, and red eyes, was none other than the second Hokage of Konoha, Tobirama Senju. But the problem was, why had the second Hokage, who had vanished for so many years, suddenly appeared in the Aurora Order's cave? It was known that the first and second Hokage had once been resurrected by Edo Tensei, then disappeared from Konoha to investigate the Aurora Order, something Jiraiya had mentioned during her training. At first, the first Hokage, the second Hokage, and Minato Namikaze had dealt heavy damage to the Aurora Order. This had once forced the Aurora Order to go into hiding. However, soon after, the first Hokage, the second Hokage, and Minato Namikaze all mysteriously vanished. During the third Hokage's time, the Umbu were relentlessly sent to search for the two Hokage and Minato, but no trace was ever found. Unexpectedly, the missing second Hokage now appeared inside the Aurora Order. And to meet under such circumstances, nothing could be worse. Could it be that they had joined the Aurora Order? A terrifying thought suddenly flashed through Sasuke's mind. Otherwise, how could one explain the first and second Hokage disappearing for such a long time and then reappearing with ties to the Aurora Order? No, that couldn't be right. Sasuke's pupils shrank, the three Tomo in her Sharingan slowly turning as they reflected the second Hokage. The Sharingan could see through chakra flow patterns, and because of this, Sasuke clearly saw a seal embedded inside the second Hokage's body. Although she could not discern the seal's purpose, its unique chakra flow was undoubtedly a key factor. Lord Second. Sasuke cautiously tried to speak, carefully testing the waters. But the second Hokage seemed completely unaware, his figure instantly disappearing from where he stood. At the moment his silhouette vanished from sight, Sasuke's muscles tensed all over. Her danger sense told her clearly that a fierce wind was rushing toward her from behind, aiming straight for her heart. Body Flicker Jutsu. After 2 years of training, Sasuke's body flicker technique had reached a level comparable to the Shursui of the body flicker. In the brief moment she vanished, the second Hokage appeared holding a kunai from his previous position. That was close. Sweat trickled down Sasuke's forehead as she kept her eyes locked on the second Hokage. If she hadn't reacted so fast, her heart would have been pierced by that kunai in that very second. Is this the second Hokage's space ninjutsu, Flying Thunder God? It was the first time Sasuke truly experienced the terrifying power of Flying Thunder God firsthand. She had to stay fully focused at all times. If she relaxed even for a second, even just to blink, her head might be separated from her body. No wonder Minato Namikaze was able to earn the nickname Yellow Flash during the Third Great Ninja War with Flying Thunder God. Only now did Sasuke fully understand why. But even though she kept her eyes on him, she still couldn't keep up with the speed of the second Hokage. In a breath, his figure vanished once again. But this time, he did not appear behind her as Sasuke expected. Swish. 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 White flashes flickered back and forth inside the cave, too fast for the naked eye to follow. Between each flash, kunai cut through the air as if blinking had woven a dense net, trapping Sasuke inside. Clang. Sasuke drew her sword, the three Magatama spinning rapidly, locking onto every kunai's position. In an instant, a cold waterfall of blade light shattered all the incoming kunai. But just as Sasuke's attention was drawn to the kunai, the second Hokage suddenly teleported behind her again. The kunai's blade seemed to slice through space itself, glowing with a deadly cold light. Flying Thunder God Slash. A ruthless slash was about to touch Sasuke's neck. Word Soul, Time 0. At that moment, the flow of time inside the entire cave seemed to slow down by dozens of times. Sasuke twisted her wrist, the blade rising from bottom to top, wrapped in the fierce light of lightning release, directly cutting the second Hokage in half at the waist. In the next instant, time flow returned to normal. The second Hokage showed no reaction at all and was suddenly cut in half. Seizing the opportunity, Sasuke pushed off with her foot and leapt high into the air. She quickly formed hand seals and took a deep breath. Fire release, great fireball. But her target was not the second Hokage, who had just been cut in half. Instead, it was the two chakra signatures hidden quietly in the shadows near the cave entrance. The second Hokage was a reanimated corpse, and she had no sealing techniques. So her only choice was to find the mastermind behind it all. Boom. A fireball several meters in diameter surged forward, releasing waves of scorching heat toward the two figures in the shadows. The terrifying heat distorted the surrounding air, then exploded violently, stirring up a massive cloud of dust and hot wind. It's not over yet. Sasuke clearly did not believe one fire release technique could finish the fight. She quickly formed new hand seals, wind release, gale slash. A howling fierce wind suddenly gathered where the flames had ignited. As if controlled by an invisible hand, the fire swirled and rolled together, transforming into a blazing fire tornado. Boom. The fire tornado combined the sharpness of wind release with the destructive power of fire release. Together, the two magnified the ninjutsu's strength to nearly S-rank level. The blazing flames swept everything around like sharp blades, ruthlessly cutting and destroying solid matter. Even the rock layers began to show signs of melting. But just as the flames raged at their fiercest, a deep voice echoed from within. Wood release, birth of the world tree. The cave floor trembled violently. Thick tree roots burst from the ground and grew rapidly with astonishing speed. The raging flames were instantly extinguished by the overwhelming growth of these furious trees. Those trees that broke through the rock layers seemed almost conscious. Their thick trunks stretched out, trying to grab Sasuke. Swish. 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 The lightning-infused sword struck, cutting down every tree in its path. But the more trees that fell, the more kept growing, as if endless. This forced Sasuke to retreat step by step. In the blink of an eye, the entire cave transformed into a dense forest, filled with towering ancient trees. Their branches smashed through the rock ceiling above, and the rapid growth was astonishing. Finally, the furious growth of trees stopped, but the original cave had completely turned into a forest. Chapter 555, Chapter 484.2, Sasuke vs. 2 Hokage. Sasuke stepped out of the cave, landing on a pool of water outside. The three tomo swirled in her pupils as her silver teeth lightly bit her lip. It's not just the second Hokage, even the first. Hey, worthy of being siblings. At that moment, a cold, sinister voice came from inside the cave. Although you share no direct blood relation, your talent is in no way inferior to your brother. Who are you? Hearing the word brother made Sasuke nearly lose control of her emotions. Show yourself. Her forehead veins bulged, her eyes burning with hatred and loathing, as if she wished to burn him to ashes. Uchiha Sasuke, you are the only one I ever miscalculated. Two figures emerged from the cave. One was familiar to Sasuke, clad in layered red old-style Sengoku armor. His face was kind and sincere, black hair flowing loosely. It was the legendary founder of Konoha, the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama. But just like the second Hokage, the first had seals implanted in his body. His eyes were hollow, seemingly devoid of self-awareness. The other figure was shrouded in complete blackness, like a living shadow. Let me introduce myself. You can call me Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu smiled strangely, lips curling in an eerie grin. Though this is your first time seeing me, I have been watching you for a long time. I have to admit, the Uchiha clan is truly impressive. From Uchiha Madara, to Uchiha Sogetsu, then Uchiha Itachi, and now it's your turn, Uchiha Sasuke. Each one is a genius beyond compare. Sasuke stared at the other person cautiously. Do you know Uchiha Itachi? At the same time, she controlled her own chakra and slowly began to absorb the surrounding natural energy, all happening secretly. Of course, I know Lord Holy Sun very well. Black Zetsu said with a look of certainty, staring at her with interest. Honestly, your growth speed has far exceeded what the Holy Sun and I expected. In just a few short years, you've reached this level. It's incredible. Cut the nonsense. So, you control the first and second Hokage. Sasuke looked at the strange person in front of him, feeling a sense of unease. Control. Black Zetsu smiled crookedly and glanced at the vacant, lifeless first and second Hokage beside him. He sneered, you could say that. Indeed, I control them. Where is Uchiha Itachi? Sasuke quickly asked the question she cared about most. I'm sorry, but I can't give you that answer, Black Zetsu shrugged, gazing meaningfully at Sasuke as if looking at a precious treasure. That kind of look, as if she were just an object to be admired, made Sasuke deeply disgusted. But the only thing I can tell you is. Black Zetsu deliberately delayed for a few seconds. Under Sasuke's angry gaze, he said, with your current power, you are far from threatening the Holy Sun. If you want revenge, you need to become stronger. Too much talk. Sasuke lowered her posture slightly. Her pupils burned with fierce golden light, and a violent aura suddenly spread out. It's fine. When I catch you, I'll slowly interrogate you. Word soul, time 0. An invisible domain expanded, making the girl seem like a ghost drifting through a crack in time. In an instant, she suddenly passed through the first and second Hokage. The cold sword blade directly pierced through Black Zetsu's ribs. From Black Zetsu's perspective, Sasuke suddenly disappeared, then reappeared, stabbing her blade through his ribs. The process seemed to have been cut off entirely. What? Black Zetsu's pupils shrank sharply. He guessed that Sasuke's ability was strange, but he never imagined it could be this strange. Even the first and second Hokage showed no reaction at all. Now, release the control over the first and second Hokage. Sasuke's left hand surged with crackling lightning, jumping with terrifying brilliance, pressing directly against Black Zetsu's heart. In her golden, fierce eyes, the 3 tomo of her Sharingan brimmed with killing intent. Otherwise, I will tear your heart apart immediately. No, you won't, Black Zetsu tried to argue. In fact, it was a Een release creation, and simple lightning release techniques couldn't harm it. Shra. As the words fell, Sasuke's lightning-filled left hand, like a sharp blade, pierced through Black Zetsu's shoulder. Amid the exploding lightning, a unique power spread out, making Black Zetsu feel a rare, tearing pain deep inside. Oh. Black Zetsu screamed in agony, his pupils shrinking to pinpoints. No, impossible. How could you hurt me? Haha, Jiraiya-sensei once mentioned. Sasuke narrowed her eyes calmly and said, he met you before. Ordinary ninjutsu can't harm you, but besides chakra, there is another kind of energy that can definitely hurt you. Hearing this, Black Zetsu's face immediately turned as ugly as if he had eaten tons of feces, and he spat out 2 words through clenched teeth, sage arts. Exactly, sage arts, natural energy. Sasuke took a deep breath and said coldly, although I still can't fully enter sage mode, thanks to the time you wasted talking to me, I've stored some natural energy. Alright, no wonder you're an Uchiha. Unexpectedly, Black Zetsu showed a manic smile instead of fear. Sasuke Uchiha, how many more surprises are you hiding? I'm getting more and more curious. Enough nonsense. Release the control over the first and second Hokage now. Sasuke's unease grew, but she couldn't find the reason, so she tightened her tone and threatened Black Zetsu. Alright. Black Zetsu gave a strange smile, then slowly said to the first and second Hokage, kill her. You. Sasuke's pupils suddenly contracted. But in that brief moment of distraction, the first and second Hokage suddenly moved closer. Time 0. Sasuke was about to force Black Zetsu to flee, when suddenly her ankle tightened. Looking down, she saw wood release erupting from the ground, wrapping tightly around her ankle, though she didn't notice when it had appeared. Water style, water dragon bite blast. As the saying goes, when top ninjas clash, victory is decided in an instant. The second Hokage shouted lowly, his massive chakra creating a gigantic whirlpool. The roaring, turbulent waves swept both Sasuke and Black Zetsu up into the sky. In the end, the raging water surged upward, gathering into the shape of a dragon. With extreme pressure, it forcibly dragged Sasuke and Black Zetsu along, crashing toward the ground like a meteor. Boom. The violent torrent washed through the forest, completely flooding the cave. The terrifying impact severely injured Sasuke. She spat out a stream of blood as she was thrown forcefully, embedding herself deep into the rocky wall. Meanwhile, the first Hokage seized the opportunity and quickly rescued Black Zetsu. The second Hokage's hand sign shifted swiftly, and the water's fury intensified, layers of violent waves rising to tens of meters, crashing relentlessly toward Sasuke. But upon closer look, the raging tsunami was filled with countless explosive seals. Water style, massive explosive water shockwave. Triggered explosive seals. Chapter 556, Chapter 485.1, Blood Rage. Black Zetsu had no intention of killing Sasuke. The reason was simple. It vaguely sensed on the girl a trace of chakra belonging to Indra. Although unbelievable, since the reincarnation of Indra should appear in a male body, it was now residing within a girl. But the fact remained. Indra played a crucial role in the plans ahead. Perhaps, through this child, I can break free from Uchiha Itachi's control, Black Zetsu thought silently, a faint smile curling at the corner of its lips. A raging tide surged forward like a bloodthirsty beast. Unexpectedly, Sasuke, who had just been slammed against the rock wall by the water's force, only spat out some blood and broke free as if unharmed. Fire release, great flame extinguishing. Facing a towering wave over 10 meters high, Sasuke formed the tiger seal with both hands. She refined her chakra to boiling point in one breath. From her chest to her throat, her lips parted slightly, and a fierce blaze surged out, matching the strength of the second Hokage's water release. Flames and tsunami clashed, fiercely battling each other. Boom. The collision of water and fire steamed the air violently. Two completely different energies exploded inside the forest cave with earth-shattering destructive power. The intense heatwave carried shockwaves that visibly spread out, flattening every tree around. The whole cave trembled violently, as if about to collapse at any moment. Using fire release to suppress water release. Black Zetsu's eyes showed surprise at the scene, but quickly filled with excitement. Impressive. Truly the reincarnation of Indra. Even Madara wasn't this strong at her age. Sasuke's growth brought ever more delight to Black Zetsu. If this pace continued, with some guided hatred, it wouldn't be long before Sasuke completely surpassed Uchiha Itachi. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Uchiha Sasuke was exactly the chosen one it had been desperately searching for. Bring her to me alive. Did you hear me? Black Zetsu fought to hold back his excitement and turned to the first and second Hokage with orders. You can break her hands and feet, but under no circumstances kill her. I want her alive. As soon as the words left his mouth, the first Hokage's figure flickered and vanished from the spot. Boom. In its place, the ground around suddenly shook violently. A thick, purple chakra enveloped the first Hokage's fist like blazing fire. With unstoppable force, it crashed toward Sasuke's abdomen. The three tomo on Sasuke's Sharingan spun fiercely, but she didn't flinch. Her right hand clenched into a fist and struck back. Boom. Fist met fist. Both warriors possessed monstrous strength. A massive shockwave erupted from the collision, like a terrifying blade of air, slicing through the surrounding forest. Sasuke staggered back several steps, her arm tingling. Gritting her teeth, she muttered, no wonder he's the first Hokage. His strength is even more ridiculous than Lady Tsunade's. Indeed, the first Hokage also possessed monstrous strength. For him, this might not even be an active skill but more of a passive ability, like the sage body's healing powers. One could only say Tsunade was truly the grandchild. All the ninjutsu she proudly used were originally passive abilities of her grandfather. Just as Sasuke was pushed back, the second Hokage used Flying Thunder God technique to close in instantly. With a kunai held in a deadly stance, he slashed directly at Sasuke's waist and abdomen. If this blade struck, it wouldn't kill her, but it would certainly rob her of her fighting ability. Sorry, Jiraiya-sensei, Sasuke whispered with a sigh. She had no choice but to use that power. It was precisely because of this ability that she once lost control and nearly punched Jiraiya-sensei to death. Following Jiraiya's advice, she had sealed the skill away, waiting until she was stronger and confident enough to control it before using it again. But now, she had no other option. Blood rage. Sasuke's pupils suddenly contracted sharply, and her reason nearly drowned in the overwhelming murderous intent. Perhaps because of past experience, this time Sasuke was able to control it. Her blood burned fiercely within her, emitting an astonishing heat. On the exposed skin of the young girl, a layer of steel-blue scales appeared, shining with a metallic luster. Bang. The kunai struck the layer of scales and unexpectedly sparked with fire. The second Hokage was stunned, clearly not expecting Sasuke to have grown a layer of scales. But when Sasuke turned her head, her golden eyes blazed like fierce flames. The intense light made the second Hokage feel a flicker of fear, as if facing a mighty dragon. Time 0. The invisible domain formed by Sasuke's word spirit expanded outward with her at the center. The second Hokage's head exploded instantly, with no time to react. Then Sasuke set her sights on the first Hokage. Within the domain of time 0, Sasuke was confident she was invincible. Staring at the first Hokage slowed down by dozens of times, Sasuke's blade cut through the air ruthlessly, sending out a cold gleam. Slash. The first Hokage's head was severed. Again with this move. In the distance, Black Zetsu watched in fury, stomping madly. It couldn't understand what secret technique Sasuke had used to instantly decapitate the first Hokage and shatter the second Hokage's skull. It was simply unbelievable. But the severed head of the first Hokage immediately turned into a wooden puppet. Not good, a wooden clone. Suddenly, Sasuke realized she might have been tricked. But it was too late. The first Hokage pressed his palms together, his deep voice echoing through the cave, would release, would dragon technique. From the nearby forest's giant trees, a lifelike wooden dragon sprouted, circling rapidly and coiling around Sasuke. No, my chakra. This was Sasuke's first time facing the first Hokage, and she never expected this move to absorb chakra. The tighter the wooden dragon wrapped around her, the more her chakra flooded into it like a broken dam. A weak feeling surged through Sasuke. Gritting her teeth, her golden eyes burned even hotter. Wind blade. Luckily, besides her dragon bloodline and chakra system, Sasuke possessed another power. And by chance, this power was absolutely immune to the wooden dragon's absorption. The compressed, razor-thin wind blade howled wildly, spreading out in all directions from her. The tough wooden dragon was instantly sliced into pieces. Huff. Huff. Sasuke's Sharingan couldn't even be maintained anymore after losing so much chakra. Her stamina had fallen to the breaking point. She knew very well that right now, she was in great danger. The only thing she could be thankful for was that Black Zetsu had weakened the powers of the first and second Hokage to control them. Otherwise, the moment they met, she might have been instantly killed. Chapter 557, Chapter 485.2, Reinforcements. Ein Seal, Release. The diamond-shaped mark on Sasuke's forehead instantly transformed into a pattern that spread across her face. Slowly forming hand seals, the chakra rushing out from the Ein Seal filled her meridians again. With a shocking speed of regeneration, her wounds visibly healed before anyone's eyes. This is Ein Seal, Creation Rebirth. Sasuke said firmly, looking at Black Zetsu, as if making up her mind about something. Creation Rebirth. Black Zetsu sneered at the scene, clearly unimpressed. For that Hashirama doesn't need hand seals. I know. I know Lady Tsunade's Creation Rebirth can't compare to Lord Hashirama's. Sasuke lowered her head and clenched her fist tightly. But I'm not using this technique just to heal my wounds. At the same time, she took a deep breath. The lightning inside her body roared like 1,000 birds all at once, erupting with a chaotic, explosive sound. Ha ha ha, are you crazy? Black Zetsu laughed loudly, watching Sasuke's body wrapped in lightning, her skin charred black. Using lightning release on yourself? Anyone else present would probably call her insane for such an action. Using lightning release on herself, wasn't her injury already bad enough? But Sasuke, bathed in the boiling, cracking thunder, violently destroyed her own body. Yet, under the Ein Seal's power, the damaged tissue rapidly repaired itself. Finally, the terrifying thunderstorm began to stabilize. Horns sprouted from Sasuke's forehead. The surging lightning blasted through the clothing on her shoulders, revealing her smooth back. Glowing with dazzling light and terrifying power, the lightning behind her slowly intertwined into 6 circular rings shaped like the Taiko Magatama. Finally, it's complete. Bathed in the lightning, Sasuke slowly exhaled, and his breath shimmered with electric light, making the air around him burn fiercely. Lightning release, Shunko. The girl's aura seemed to completely change. Her purple golden eyes, like a majestic thunder god, looked down upon the stunned Black Zetsu. I've spent 2 full years training this mode, she said softly, lowering her head as she stared at her arm, which was constantly being destroyed and reborn. But I still can't fully master it. Only when using the Ein Seal, Creation Rebirth mode can I barely manage this technique. 3 minutes, that's my limit. As Sasuke spoke, he spread his legs into a bow stance. His right hand clenched tightly into a fist, and from his mouth, a white breath slowly escaped, piercing the air like a sharp arrow, accompanied by a whistling sound as it sliced through the silence. He gathered all his chakra into a single point, then unleashed a perfectly executed stepping punch. The power of the wide, fierce strike exploded like an avalanche or an earthquake. Boom. Even the first Hokage couldn't block the force of this punch. Sasuke's body streaked through the air like a meteor, surrounded by explosive gale winds roaring loudly, stirring up a tsunami-like wave of air. The ground beneath Sasuke's feet couldn't withstand such tremendous force and began to crumble. Countless cracks spread out like a giant spider web in every direction. Sasuke surged forward again, accompanied by a thunderous blast that sounded like the sky itself was tearing apart. The next moment. Within the realm where time stood still, Sasuke's sword seemed to cast multiple afterimages. The harsh grinding sound of the blade cutting through the air blended with the roaring thunder, composing a symphony of destruction. The blade, sharp and swift, sliced through layers of air. The first Hokage hadn't even reacted before a dazzling white light filled his vision. Only the flash of the blade remained, falling like a torrential downpour. A single strike. No. It wasn't a single slash. It was hundreds, thousands of blades. Under the effect of the time-zero domain, every strike was compressed into a single moment. Ultimate slashes. A deafening clash of steel rang out, mixed with terrifying sonic booms. Like a chain of firecrackers exploding one after another, the first Hokage was instantly shredded under hundreds of overlapping sword lights, crushed into dust and scattered like drifting smoke. The shattered light of blades and the sharp pressure of sword energy swept out like a storm, tearing through dozens of meters around. The entire ground was carved with chaotic, terrifying slash marks. The lightning's searing heat even ignited the air, making the whole space boil and twist. Turning her head, Sasuke stepped forward again, charging toward the second Hokage at terrifying speed. Flying Thunder God. The second Hokage instantly teleported. But no matter how fast he moved, he still couldn't shake off Sasuke. Almost simultaneously, both appeared in the same place. Clang. The blade left its sheath, carrying unimaginable speed, cutting through with a flash of icy light. The crushing sword pressure reduced the second Hokage's body to dust, just like the first, turned to ash and scattered into the wind. You're next. Behind Sasuke, the drum-shaped Tomo pattern pulsed with a thunderous roar. A searing bolt of lightning formed in her palm, like divine punishment from the heavens. The moment Black Zetsu was locked on, he felt the cold grip of death. If that lightning-forged spear struck him, even as a creature of Een release, there would be no escape from death. Help me! Black Zetsu called out desperately. But the first and second Hokage had already been blasted to dust. Even with Edo Tensei, it would take time to regenerate, and for Black Zetsu, even a moment was fatal. Lightning. Just then, Sasuke suddenly shuddered. The powerful lightning vanished in an instant. Her eyes widened in disbelief. All strength left her body, and she collapsed helplessly to the ground. No. Impossible. Why? The time, it shouldn't be over yet. Sasuke collapsed to the ground, her legs giving out beneath her. Agony surged through her body like a tide breaking through a dam. Every bone throbbed, every nerve screamed, her muscles convulsed with unbearable pain. She gasped, struggling to breathe. Her chakra, it was gone. Drained far too fast. This was her first time fully activating the new form. She had overestimated herself. Misjudged the burden. And now, she was paying the price. A burst of wild laughter echoed through the chamber. Ha 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 ha. Black Zetsu, bloodied but still alive, writhed with glee as it looked at her broken form. Quick. Restrain her, it howled, voice sharp and cruel. Don't let her recover. At its command, the first and second Hokage, who had only moments ago been stalled, moved forward with grim expressions, their chakra flaring to life. Sasuke could only watch as they approached. She clenched her teeth. Is this the end? Her vision blurred. Her limbs refused to move. Her pride burned, but her body had reached its limit. Then. A presence appeared. There had been no sound. No chakra. No sign. But suddenly, someone stood behind her. Cool fingers reached out beside her face. Pale and smooth, like carved jade. The hand moved gracefully. Then, 3 fingers came together with a crisp snap. A calm, feminine voice echoed across the cavern. Stop. The word was simple. Soft. But it rang like divine judgment. Everyone froze. Even Black Zetsu held its breath. The voice was gentle, clear, but the chill behind it was unmistakable. Cold. Detached. Ancient. It pierced to the marrow, silencing the room with invisible pressure. Sasuke's eyes widened. Not in fear. But in awe. She knew that voice didn't belong to anyone ordinary. Chapter 558, Chapter 486.1, Arei arrives. Stop. The cold, clear voice sounded like a divine command. At once, the first and second Hokage's movements truly became as simple and obedient as that, stopping right before the pale, jade-like hand. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying a faint sweet fragrance. At that moment, Sasuke turned around in shock and saw a very familiar figure. A black cloak with red clouds hung on the girl's body, seeming a bit loose and not quite fitting her. She looked about 20 years old, her skin white and flawless like jade. Her long red hair flowed down to her waist, simply tied with a silk ribbon. Her cherry-colored eyes were cold and pure, as if untouched by any impurity, like 2 precious gems. Combined with her delicate features, a high nose and slightly furrowed brows, she was truly heart-catching. She just stood there, like a perfect painting, with an ethereal aura like a fairy. Her flawless, peerless beauty even made Sasuke feel ashamed of herself. Arei Uchiha. Sasuke stared at the girl in disbelief, saying her name aloud. She never imagined that after 2 years, she would see Arei Uchiha again under such circumstances. Long time no see, Sasuke-chan. When Arei looked at him, a faint smile finally appeared in her cold eyes. Why did you join Akatsuki? Sasuke asked, stunned, unable to hide her surprise at the clothes she wore. Arei nodded simply, as always, because it's fun. Fun. What kind of reason was that? Let's talk later. Arei turned around, looking at the first and second Hokage frozen in midair. Then, under Sasuke's shocked gaze, her slender fingers moved gracefully, like playing a melody, lightly tapping the forehead of the first Hokage. There was no strong force behind the movement. The gentle touch seemed almost harmless. The next moment, the first Hokage vanished from his spot in an instant, like a supersonic fighter jet. Air roared around him as he broke the sound barrier in the blink of an eye. Boom. The moment the first Hokage was thrown backward, the forest debris inside the cave, the dust, stones, and fragments, were all swept up and carried away by the shockwave of air. At the center of this terrifying hurricane was the first Hokage, moving so fast he had almost become an afterimage. Like a high-speed spinning gear, the hurricane's destructive power and suction force dragged everything around into its vortex, tearing it apart. This time, Sasuke could clearly feel the great power swirling around the girl. In that instant, on Arei's body, she sensed the suppression from bloodline power, as if facing the Dragon King seated on the throne. At the same time, she vaguely felt the sacred and unchallengeable aura expanding outward from the girl. It was as if touching the power of a god. Along the path of the hurricane, a semicircular trench several meters deep appeared, cutting through the cave and disappearing into the forest beyond. Everything that tried to block the hurricane was completely shredded, leaving nothing behind. With just one strike, the first and second Hokage were utterly destroyed. Looking at the collapsed, shattered cave and then at the calm Arei, Sasuke swallowed nervously. Wait, where's Gaara? Suddenly, Sasuke remembered, Gaara was still lying on the ground. She anxiously searched for the Kazekage's figure, but the cave was so badly damaged she couldn't find any trace of him. Could it be, he's dead? Sasuke felt an unexplainable guilt. If he really died, how would they explain it to the Sand Village? Would they say, sorry, I wasn't paying attention during the fight and accidentally killed your Kazekage? That would be terrible. The Sand Village would probably want to kill her. What's wrong, Sasuke? Arei, who was beside Sasuke, noticed her gloomy mood and tilted her head with a puzzled look. Weren't all the enemies already dealt with? True, the enemies were dealt with, but sister, you also took care of the Kazekage. Don't worry. If you're worried about that person, he's fine. Arei's eyes glowed faintly golden, as if she could see right through people's hearts. That's a relief. Sasuke finally felt some ease settle in her chest. But then, her worry returned. Arei, where did they take Gaara? Here. Arei raised her hand and pointed. Following the direction of her shimmering finger, Sasuke looked up at the sky. Hanging there was a white flying dragon, and Gaara was held gently in its mouth. Is that the forehead protector of the IWA ninja village? Sasuke's sharp eyes immediately spotted two figures on the dragon. One was Black Zetsu, and the other, a young man with a golden ponytail, wore the IWA forehead protector on his head. Thanks for your help earlier. Black Zetsu still looked shaken, a trace of fear lingering in his eyes as he thanked the young man beside him. To be honest, if the young man hadn't arrived in time, Black Zetsu's fate would likely have been the same as the first and second Hokage, torn apart by the terrifying whirlwind. Forget about the power contained in that in-release creation, even Black Zetsu was startled. When did the Akatsuki become so powerful? Black Zetsu suddenly felt a bit regretful. In this situation, how would they recover the Rinnegan later? Without the Rinnegan, Madara couldn't activate the infinite Tsukuyomi. It was even less likely to use Madara to resurrect his mother. That woman down there seems really strong. From the flying dragon, Deidara's eyes burned with fierce fighting intent. He licked his lips and said, hey, you're the one who got beaten by her, right? Hearing that, Black Zetsu's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. He hurriedly stopped him, don't provoke that girl. You're no match for her. The reanimated first and second Hokage were instantly killed by her at first sight. We should take advantage of this and leave quickly with the Jinchuriki. Leave? No way. Unexpectedly, Deidara was stubborn like a teenager. The more he was told not to, the more he wanted to try. Didn't they say she was really strong? She instantly killed the first and second Hokage at first encounter. Perfect, this is a good chance to test my magnificent ninjutsu. While speaking, Deidara reached into the pocket at his waist. Two mouths in his palms greedily devoured the clay. Since she's so strong, I'll use this to test her first. Chapter 559, Chapter 486.2, Petty Sogetsu. Stop. Black Zetsu was furious, cursing Inoki in his heart, wondering why no reliable person was sent here. But unfortunately, it was too late. Deidara formed two clay birds and suddenly threw them. Whoosh! The two small birds suddenly doubled their speed the moment they left his hands. The flying beasts even made piercing sonic booms. In just a few seconds, they dived in front of the two people below. Arei's eyes shifted. She grabbed Sasuke's shoulder, tapped her toes lightly, and vanished from where she stood. At the same time, the two clay birds hit the ground and exploded instantly. Boom. The boiling shockwave rolled and spread out in all directions. As the dust settled, Daidara frowned slightly and turned his head to look at the two. His eyes revealed even greater interest. Not bad. Their speed is fast, even the fastest birds can't catch them. Then I'll use this move, The dragon circling in the sky suddenly lost part of its thick tail. Then, its mouth gradually expanded, as if something was being stuffed inside. The moment it opened its mouth, a fat bird-like beast, flapping its wings, shot toward the ground like a cannonball. Boom. This bird beast was even faster than last time. Amid the sharp sonic boom, a rolling shockwave dragged around the bird beast, like a meteor streaking across the sky. Ha ha ha, this is my fastest ninjutsu, Daidara's face in the sky showed excitement. Let's see where you can run. Explode. Too late. Sasuke's pupils suddenly shrank. The bird beast's speed was terrifying. Without hesitation, Sasuke blocked in front of Arei, pulling her into her arms. Be careful. But Arei pushed her away calmly. Looking at the incoming bird beast, she calmly stretched out her hand. Word Soul, Glazed Crystal Fortress. Boom. A terrifying heatwave surged, and the shockwave swept through the cave ruins. As far as the eye could see, dust rose high like a curtain, with great flames shooting up to the sky. But in the next moment, what appeared surprised Daidara. What is that? Around Arei and Sasuke stood a golden defensive barrier. Complex characters floated along it, completely blocking the C2 level explosion, without even a speck of dust touching them. Daidara stared at the golden flowing characters, as if the air had solidified into crystal clear glaze, entranced. So beautiful. How can something so beautiful exist? This is true art. Wake up. Hurry and wake up. Black Zetsu was nearly scared out of his mind. This was because Arei once again stretched out her pure white, jade-like arm, her 5 slender fingers seeming to grasp at them out of thin air. Black Zetsu could clearly feel the air around them being squeezed tighter and tighter. A deadly terror, like the scythe of a grim reaper, enveloped them completely. Word Soul, Judgment. In the corpse cathedral, Adam sat upright with solemnity. Suddenly, a blurry figure appeared directly inside the church. Adam stepped down from his bronze chair, cloaked in a pure white robe, revealing his original appearance, bearded and smiling gently. Welcome back. It's been a long time. The visitor was naturally Uchiha Sogetsu. Looking at Adam, who seemed somewhat changed, he asked calmly, how is the plan progressing? As expected, the 4th Great Ninja War will begin soon. Adam flipped open the book in his hands, scanning the text briefly. Inoki, unwilling to remain inferior, after witnessing White Zetsu's actions, finally developed rebellious thoughts. He united with the Aurora Order, secretly clearing obstacles and centralizing power, preparing to ascend as the Black Emperor. The kidnapped Gaara will become the fuse that ignites the 4th Great Ninja War. Following that, the Aurora Order will strike again, seizing the 2 tails from Kimogakure, the 3 tails and the 6 tail from Kirigakure, and the 7 tails from Takigakure. The Land of Earth, under Inoki's control, will declare full-scale war on the ninja world, marking the start of a great era. Under the mounting pressure, the Hokage, Raikage, acting Kazekage, Mizukage, and Omegakage will convene in the Land of Iron for the 5 Kage Summit, officially discussing how to deal with the Aurora Order in the Land of Earth. When Adam finished speaking, he closed the book, raising his eyelids slightly. His eyes, pure and innocent like those of a child, fixed on Uchiha Sogetsu. How do you find the script I arranged? Not bad. Uchiha Sogetsu was fairly satisfied with Adam's arrangement. How's the situation on your side? Adam put down the book, his expression turning somewhat serious. Not going very smoothly. Uchiha Sogetsu sighed lightly and shook his head. But at least we've clarified one thing. During these 2 years of disappearance, Uchiha Sogetsu was not merely a bystander. His main focus was drawn by the Chaos Sea. Sephiroth was a necessary element to advance to the Great Old One. But unfortunately, he was currently only a Sequence 1 King of Angels. Though he could avoid further corruption, accommodating the Sephiroth was simply a fool's dream. Over these 2 years, Uchiha Sogetsu ventured deep into the Chaos Sea several times, intending to explore the origin of the corruption. But unfortunately, each time he reached the Blasphemy Slate in the Chaos Sea, an inexplicable force blocked him, preventing any further progress. Still, it wasn't entirely without gain. At least Uchiha Sogetsu confirmed one fact: the Blasphemy Slate in the Chaos Sea was the corpse of Primordial God Almighty transformed. In other words, to accommodate the Chaos Sea, one must be prepared to resist the erosion from God Almighty's consciousness, otherwise, it cannot be held lightly. The Chaos Sea had completely invaded reality, crossing the gap between the pure land and the material world, flowing deep into the Earth's core. What do you plan to do about abomination on the moon? Adam looked at Uchiha Sogetsu. With his current level, he could easily overwhelm a Sequence 1 abomination. No rush. Abomination is still useful. Uchiha Sogetsu shook his head and chuckled softly. Hasn't Black Zetsu always been searching for his mother? I'm looking forward to the expression on his face when he finally sees that the mother he longs for day and night has become a terrifying monster. Did Black Zetsu offend you? Adam was a bit surprised. Otherwise, there was no reason for him to act like this. Yeah, you could say he did. Uchiha Sogetsu actually nodded and said, back then, in the Uchiha's underground Naka shrine, Black Zetsu spied on me. Later, he schemed against me again. You're the king of angels after all. You still hold grudges. Adam was speechless. Besides, how long ago was that? Who said a king of angels can't hold grudges? Uchiha Sogetsu gave him a side eye and calmly said, haven't you seen Amon next door? Even after tens of thousands of years, he's still a brat. To that, Adam could only say, fair enough. Poor Black Zetsu. When Mom truly resurrects, his first reaction definitely won't be joy, but shock. With Abomination's presence, it would be amazing if Black Zetsu doesn't break down from fear. Brats are not to be messed with. Looking at Uchiha Sogetsu, Adam shook his head helplessly and thought, but a king of angels who holds grudges. Even worse. A grudge from over 400 chapters ago, yet still remembered now, isn't that terrifying? Chapter 560, Chapter 487.1, Arei vs. Deidara. Deidara ultimately paid a heavy price for his youthful arrogance. Or rather, from the very beginning, he never should have underestimated that woman. Ignoring Black Zetsu's warning and turning to leave was the worst decision Deidara had ever made. And the price was an arm. He didn't even see clearly what happened, just felt a wave of bone-chilling cold sweep over him. The droplets in the air, under that woman's single finger, seemed to transform into the sharpest blades in the world. They sliced cleanly across the sky, leaving behind a faint, terrifying scar in midair. Even the clouds above were shredded by that one gesture. Fortunately, at the critical moment, it was Black Zetsu who reacted first and shoved him away. Otherwise, it wouldn't have just been his arm that was severed, it would have been his head. What the hell kind of ability is that? Deidara clutched his severed arm and collapsed to his knees in pain, cold sweat pouring down his pale face. The pain from the wound felt like it had drilled straight into his bones, stabbing deep into his very soul. It was as if thousands of ants were gnawing at his flesh and blood. Even Deidara, used to pain, couldn't endure it, his face turned pale, lips purple, and his whole body trembled slightly. I don't know. Black Zetsu stood beside him, still rattled and silently thankful. Thankfully, that woman's target wasn't it, it was Deidara standing next to it. If it had been the other way around, it would have been dead for sure. Her ability is strange, it doesn't feel like any ninjutsu I've ever seen, and it's definitely not senjutsu either. Even with Black Zetsu's thousands of years of experience, it still couldn't understand what kind of power that woman used. It seemed completely disconnected from the power system of shinobi, outside the framework of chakra that Otsutsuki Hagoromo had established. As if it was a path no one had ever walked before. Suddenly, the giant bird beneath them trembled violently and plummeted from the sky. Deidara, hurry up and make another flying one. Black Zetsu shouted in panic. The C2 giant bird they were riding had already lost one of its wings and was struggling to stay balanced in midair. But if they kept falling like this, Black Zetsu had no doubt they'd soon be back in her attack range, and once that happened, the two of them would be slaughtered by that woman. Shut up, I'm already molding one. Deidara gritted his teeth through the pain of his severed arm, snorted coldly, and reached his left hand into the pouch at his waist. Buy me a little time, he shouted at Black Zetsu. Have the reanimated first and second Hokage stall that woman for a bit. I'm already on it. Black Zetsu used his will to command the just-revived first and second Hokage to intercept Arei. If they had been at full strength, maybe they could have delayed her. But Black Zetsu had implanted control seal tags into their bodies, weakening them by more than 2/3. How could they possibly hold off Arei like this? Arei flicked her finger lightly and murmured, Word Soul, King's Blaze. Boom. An intensely hot flame compressed into a single point before erupting into a violent and terrifying explosion. The first and second Hokage, who had just charged forward, were instantly swallowed by the blast and turned to ash in the blink of an eye. With the troublesome pair of reanimations gone, Arei turned her gaze back to the two falling figures in midair. A trace of impatience shimmered in her cool, distant eyes. You two are really annoying. Hearing her comment, Sasuke, a girl with sharp eyes and a quiet pride, felt a bit conflicted. She wasn't sure whether to feel frustrated or flattered. Just before the C2 dragon hit the ground, Deidara grabbed Black Zetsu and leapt off, the two of them crashing into the grass in a messy heap. This is all your fault. What now? Black Zetsu glared at Deidara angrily. If this brat hadn't insisted on showing off, they would have escaped long ago. There'd have been no need to end up in this sorry state. Deidara's eyes widened in horror as the woman calmly raised her hand again. A cold shiver ran down his spine. A shadow burrowed into his mind, and panic surged like a flood. Cut the crap. Stall her for me, he shouted hoarsely. You want me to stall her with my life? Black Zetsu snapped back, his voice rising in disbelief. What the hell was Inoki thinking, sending an idiot like you? But it was already too late for arguing. The woman's patience, tested time and again, had finally run dry. Though Adam had told her to spare their lives, he hadn't said she couldn't teach them a lesson they'd never forget. A low hum filled the cavern. Then, words. Ancient and majestic, the language of dragon runes echoed across the crumbling cave ceiling like the distant toll of a divine bell. In an instant, the entire world around them changed. Blistering heat erupted into the air. Scorching winds howled, searing everything in a radius of hundreds of meters. The broken ground shimmered. The cave's shattered walls glowed red. What is this? Deidara staggered backward, clutching his chest. The heat was unbearable. Each breath was like sucking molten iron into his lungs. His vision swam. His skin felt like it would peel off. Black Zetsu, though lacking a physical body in the same sense, felt his will bending under the crushing pressure. And at the center of the inferno stood the woman. She chanted softly, her lips moving in a cadence that made no sense to them, yet sent ripples through the world. Her clothes fluttered though no wind blew. Waist-length red hair danced behind her, flames rising with every strand. Above her head, 5 burning rings floated silently. They shone with divine brilliance. Each one emitted a terrifying aura. Together, they were like a miniature sun descending upon the earth, pulsing with heat and judgment. The air grew heavier. The flames surged. The sky itself seemed to bend to her power. One layer of fire rose. Then another. And another. 9 layers of flame in total, each one golden, divine, and terrifying. A blazing tower of fire pierced the sky, like a ladder built for gods and monsters. At its peak, a colossal dragon-shaped shadow circled slowly, its roar rumbling through their bones. The chant reached its climax. The woman's eyes remained closed. Her hand was still raised. The 9-layered flame tower pulsed, alive and terrifying. Then, crack! A fissure formed at the base of the inferno. Deidara's instincts screamed. This is bad. The moment of silence was more terrifying than the roar that came after. But by then, it was already too late. The power that had gathered into a towering pillar shattered. The 9-tiered tower began to crack from the very bottom, emitting a crisp, explosive sound, breaking apart like jade or porcelain. Its pure, glass-like body was riddled with cracks as if hit by a tremendous force. The energy swirling within the fiery ring finally found an outlet to escape. Boom. A terrifying blaze erupted violently, like a dam breaking, flooding the sky with overwhelming fire. Soon, the remaining 8 tiers of the tower shattered one after another. The flames poured down, colliding with each other, triggering a staggering elemental reaction. The destructive power of the explosion expanded exponentially. Chapter 561, Chapter 487.2, Declaration of War. In the next moment, Sasuke even saw a blazing red mushroom cloud rise, dominating most of the sky. The compressed air was pushed by the blast's aftershock, creating visible shockwaves that roared outward, forming a massive, perfect circle. After the terrifying flames swept across all directions, an eardrum-shattering explosion followed. Even the clouds high above were torn apart by the sound waves, and the ground below showed signs of cracking and collapse. The raging fire consumed everything in its path. Ariine. Sasuke stared dumbfounded at the scene, almost on the verge of tears. Why, you didn't forget the Kazekage, did you? Right now, all she could do was pray to the Sage of Six Paths for protection. She desperately hoped Gaara wouldn't be hurt. But looking at the area scorched by the 9-tiered tower's raging flames, it resembled a giant crater formed by a meteor strike, hundreds of meters wide. The rocks at the edges were sandified from the intense heat, and molten lava flowed at the center. She couldn't help but feel Gaara's chances of survival were slim. Ah, I forgot. Arai showed a somewhat innocent, blank expression, her big eyes wide and naive. She really didn't mean it, Gaara's presence was just too low-key. Besides, Adam hadn't given any special instructions, so she hadn't thought much of it. He's probably, maybe, still alive. Arai pressed her lips nervously, feeling uneasy. It's over. Looking at the girl's somewhat innocent expression, Sasuke had completely lost hope. She couldn't bring herself to scold her, after all, the girl came to save her. Besides, she belonged to the Rain Village, so there was no need to rescue the Sand Village's Kazekage. Wait. Seeing Sasuke's guilt and disappointment, Arai frowned slightly and suddenly looked toward the center of the explosion. What's wrong? Sasuke noticed her change in expression and asked. But the next moment, from the magma at the center of the crater, a huge stone giant began to surge out. It looked like a small hill made of hard, gray-white rock, its surface engraved with complex and mysterious runes. The giant slowly opened its palm, and in the center were Gaara, Deidara, and Black Zetsu. However, what shocked Sasuke the most was the figure standing on the giant's head, a large, bulky man who seemed overweight but tall and strong, wearing a yellow scarf, a jonin vest of Iwagakure, and the forehead protector of the IWA village jonin. Again. Iwagakure. Sasuke's pupils shrank slightly as she stared intently at the man. If Deidara's appearance might be explained as a rogue ninja from Iwagakure who hadn't removed his forehead protector in time, then this overweight man wearing the official jonin vest and protector clearly denied that guess. Deidara, Black Zetsu, are you two all right? Akatsuchi looked somewhat simple on the surface, but in reality, he was very smart. Just by looking at the injuries of the two, he sensed how terrifying that woman was. Although he arrived early, he chose to act only at the most critical moment. I didn't want things to turn out like this, Deidara snorted coldly, turning his head and complaining, who would have known that woman was so strong? If you hadn't shown up, we almost lost our lives. Isn't it your own fault for showing off? Black Zetsu nearby was full of resentment. Just moments ago, they were almost dead. If Akatsuchi hadn't come in time and rescued them from underground, they would have been reduced to nothing by now. It was just too difficult. If Black Zetsu had known provoking Sasuke would bring out this fierce lady, he would have run away long ago. After tens of thousands of years, he had only appeared openly once, and ended up getting beaten so badly. Black Zetsu was mentally scarred and silently vowed never to show himself again if he could avoid it. Guys, can you save your arguing for later, after we get back? Akatsuchi still looked like a nice guy, squinting his eyes and kindly advising, after all, we're not out of danger yet. Hearing this, Black Zetsu and Deidara immediately fell silent. Arei sighed softly in her heart, relieved they finally came out. Otherwise, she didn't know how she could continue the act. What exactly does Iwagakure want? But at that moment, Sasuke could no longer control himself. She loudly questioned the people on the mountain giant, you're actually working with the Aurora Order. Are you crazy? Is this the Tsuchikige's order, or are you two traitor ninjas? You must be a child of the Uchiha clan, right? Akatsuchi, standing atop the mountain giant, smiled and looked at Uchiha Sasuke. I thought you'd ask a more valuable question. I didn't expect it to be this. At this time, Hyuga Niji and the others who had torn off the seal tag and finally defeated the clone also rushed back. Seeing the huge mountain rock giant, as well as the unconscious Gaara, Black Zetsu, and two people from Iwagakure, they all showed shocked expressions. Since all of you from Konoha are here, I'll speak directly. Akatsuchi's eyes, usually narrowed, opened slightly, a cold sharpness in his gaze that seemed to press down on the surrounding air. From now on, we, Iwagakure, officially rename ourselves the Iwagami Empire, Rock God Empire. In the name of the first IWA, Rock, Emperor, the Inoki of Two Scales, we hereby declare war on the shinobi world. At these words, everyone from Konoha was shocked. Did they hear it wrong? Iwagakure renamed itself as the Iwagami Empire, and the Two Scales Inoki changed from Tsuchikage to IWA Emperor. And what was this about declaring war on the entire shinobi world? Don't understand. Akatsuchi paused briefly, then smiled. No worries. Let me explain again. We declare war on Konoha, Sunagakure, Kirigakure, and Kimogakure. As he said this, his gaze passed over Arei, who wore a black cloak with the red clouds, her eyes sharp and fierce. We also declare war on Omegakure. Are you all insane? Niji Hyuga's pupils shrank sharply, a chill rushing up his spine to his head. He even suspected that the Two Scales Inoki of Iwagakure was suffering from dementia due to old age. Otherwise, how could anyone say that one village could declare war on the 5 great shinobi villages? That's enough. However, Akatsuchi ignored the shocked Konoha group and said to Deidara, it's time to leave. Deidara formed his giant bird, and the group transferred over the rocks. Well then, next time we meet. Akatsuchi looked down at the Konoha people below and smiled. It will be on the battlefield. I hope you all can deliver this message to your Kage intact. With that, the giant bird carried them up into the sky. Wait. Don't go. Sasuke tried desperately to chase after them, but her strength was drained. After only a few steps, she nearly fell. Arei, standing beside Sasuke, supported him gently. Her eyes flickered slightly as she whispered, may I borrow your sword for a moment? Why yes, of course you can. Although Sasuke didn't fully understand, after witnessing Arei's strength, she decisively handed over her sword. Arei gripped the sword firmly, a faint golden light shimmering in her eyes. She disliked people who left harsh words before leaving. Word soul, Imperial Sword. In an instant, Sasuke's sword shot through the sky like a meteor. Ah! Akatsuchi's chest was pierced through by the sword. He was both shocked and terrified. Turning around, he looked at Arei with eyes full of hatred. Next time we meet, I will definitely kill you. Alright, I'll be waiting. Arei said softly, her expression remaining unchanged from start to finish. Chapter 562, Chapter 488.1, Deidara returns. Looking at the Kazekage Gaara being taken away, Sasuke felt that helplessness sweep over her again, the same feeling she had 2 years ago when she watched Naruto leave helplessly. Damn it. If only I could become a little stronger, this wouldn't have happened. At that moment, Arei gently hugged Sasuke. It's okay. Don't blame yourself too much. This isn't your fault. Thank you, Arei, Sasuke said with a forced smile, feeling grateful. If it weren't for you, I probably. We're good friends, aren't we? Arei smiled softly, her crimson eyes like a crescent moon. Yes, you're right. We are friends. Sasuke felt warmth spread through her heart. Then suddenly, as if remembering something, she asked, by the way, how did you join the Akatsuki? Because, it's more fun. Arei tapped her index finger on her lips, tilting her head, giving a cute answer. Sasuke was stunned for half a second, then burst out laughing. That really is so like Arei. I'm leaving now, Sasuke, Arei said, looking toward the approaching Konoha group. See you next time. Though reluctant, Sasuke knew the Akatsuki and Tsunagakure weren't on good terms. Meeting now might cause trouble. So she nodded, okay, if you come to Konoha next time, I'll treat you to Ichiraku ramen. Alright, I'll wait for you. Arei waved with a smile, then her figure flickered and disappeared from sight. Not long after, Kakashi and Chiyo caught up. Also, the second team led by Might Guy arrived, but sadly, the battle was already over, leaving Guy a bit disappointed. Sasuke quickly explained the situation, and everyone fell into silence. Kazekage Gaara had not been rescued and was captured by the Aurora Order. And there were 2 heavy pieces of news. For now, let's send the intelligence back. Kakashi was also helpless, he couldn't believe something like this had happened. Inoki and Iwagakure village had joined forces with the Aurora Order, and shockingly, they planned to declare war on the entire ninja world. Their goal in kidnapping the Kazekage was undoubtedly the tailed beasts. Could they really want all the tailed beasts? Sasuke bit her lip and clenched her fists, still feeling discouraged that she couldn't rescue Gaara. She had been training for 2 whole years. She had grown stronger, so why couldn't she catch up to Naruto or save her friend? A deep sense of helplessness and heavy pressure weighed down on Sasuke's mood. It seemed that Chiyo noticed what was on Sasuke's mind. Trembling, she slowly walked over and silently embraced her. Child, I once thought true friendship between villages was impossible. I believed you didn't truly want to save that child. But now, I feel sincerity coming from you. At that moment, everyone suddenly realized that besides Chiyo, the one suffering the most was probably Sasuke. I've heard about you, child. Chiyo gently stroked Sasuke's hair and said softly, from you, I can feel sincerity, something our generation lacks. Maybe the future of the ninja world will truly change because of you, hee. Lady Tsunade, how is the mission? Was the Kazekage rescued? Shizune, holding Tun, stood obediently to the side. She looked at Tsunade's worried face and serious expression and asked. It's hard to explain in just a few words. Go see for yourself. Tsunade sighed helplessly, rubbing her throbbing forehead, then tossed over the mission report. When Shizune saw the contents of the report, her pupils suddenly shrank, and she showed a shocked expression. Is this Iwagakure planning to declare war on the ninja world? Now she understood why Tsunade had that reaction when she received the report. Anyone in her position would be startled by this news. Iwagakure village had colluded with the Aurora Order, intending to seize control of the tailed beasts and declare war on the entire shinobi world. This was shocking. How long had it been since the Third Great Ninja War? Everyone had thought the 5 great ninja villages would unite to resist the ever-growing power of the Aurora Order. But unexpectedly, among the 5, the most unnoticed village, Iwagakure, had become the sole traitor. What exactly was Inoki planning? It's not over yet, Shizune. Tsunade, feeling troubled, pointed to the intelligence report and said, look further. There's more. After reading the second piece of news, Shizune nearly fainted from shock. No, it can't be. Shizune exclaimed in horror. The first and second Hokage have actually been controlled by the Aurora Order. I wish this news were false as well. Tsunade sighed deeply, pressing her hand to her forehead. But sadly, logic tells me that since the first and second Hokage have been missing for so many years, Sasuke's intel is likely true. This news was an enormous blow to Konoha. The first Hokage, founder of the village, and the highly respected second Hokage had apparently turned and fallen under the Aurora Order's control. Could there be anything worse than this? Probably not. Tsunade-sama, no matter if it's true or not, we must prepare a response. Shizun quickly composed herself and looked at Tsunade seriously. No matter the truth of this intelligence, they had to be ready in advance. Otherwise, if the fourth great ninja war truly broke out, and Konoha was invaded again, it would be more than they could handle. I understand your point, Shizun. Tsunade stood up from her seat and turned to look out the window at the bustling village of Konoha. I will not repeat the mistakes of the third Hokage. I will never let anyone set foot in Konoha again. During his tenure, the third Hokage's greatest fault was allowing Kimogakure to infiltrate Konoha. Shizun, go call Jiraiya. Tsunade paused and thought for a moment, then spoke slowly. Lady Tsunade, should we inform the two advisors? Shizun hesitated for a moment but decided to ask. After all, before the Hokage makes any important decision, it must be approved by the two advisors. This system was specially established by the second Hokage to limit the Hokage's power. No, there's no need to tell them for now. Tsunade shook her head, her eyes flickering slightly. To avoid unnecessary trouble, keep this matter confidential for the time being. Under no circumstances should it be leaked. Understood, Lady Tsunade. Shizun nodded, then hurried away holding Tun-Tun. When Deidara and the others returned, Katsuchi looked at them in shock. Their appearance was pitiful, some had lost arms, others had injuries piercing through their chests. His jaw nearly dropped. What exactly happened? Katsuchi stared at them in disbelief and asked. Even though Deidara could be unreliable, his strength was ranked among the top in Iwagakure. Now, after going out on a rescue mission, how come he came back with only one arm? Moreover, the difficulty of this mission shouldn't have been that high, right? Could it be that another genius has appeared in Konoha?